I was like, he's my Picard watching buddy, man. Now I got to watch the finale by myself.
You can watch it with me, buddy.
So I was like, I might take you up on that because we watch it Wednesday night. Because they usually drop it like around 11ish is what we've been finding. So like we make a big deal. I grill steaks, we talk about it for a good hour.
I guess if I'm gonna have to watch that pile of trash, having a good steak and some booze would help it go down a little bit better.
Some wine,
some red flavor,
wine.
That's kind of funny.
I don't know what we're gonna. Do you want to start with Westworld or Avenue 5? What do you guys want to start with?
Why don't we start with the intro?
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. I am your host, the Salty Nerd. Today's episode, we're going to be discussing a season 1 recap of Avenue 5 on HBO.
Start over.
Start over.
Yeah, I'm going to record you.
This is not easy.
This is Patreon content.
Oh, okay.
All right, you ready?
That was a really good take, buddy. I'm sorry.
Thanks. That's all right. Welcome back to another episode. What the fuck?
All right, now go.
Take 3.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. I am your host, the Salty Nerd. And today's episode, we're going to be discussing a season 1 recap of Avenue 5 on HBO, along with episode 2 of Westworld, also on HBO. And then we're going to have a solid dump truck load of salt for Star Trek Picard. And that's about it for today. Oh, and then we're going to talk about what our favorite movies are for our quarantine watch list. What are we watching while we're stuck at home? Thank you guys all for joining us. Today I am joined by Matt Vader 74, Barbarian himself. What's up, Matt? How you doing?
Excuse me, plucky sidekick.
No. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good.
How's your cat? How's your pussy?
Moving along.
I'm also joined today.
I'm completely derailing that.
I'm also joined today by the artist formerly known as Fat Beard. Danny, welcome back, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's our honorary ambassador of estrogen this week.
Second time on the pod. How you doing?
I'm, all things considered, I'm actually doing pretty great. Fortunately, none of this stuff affects me because I can work from anywhere as long as I have internet.
Yes.
Most people I know, sadly, are not as fortunate.
Yeah, so. I'm apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently I'm part of that essential workforce.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Well, at least you get
I'm
to keep
still
working.
Going to work.
Well, that's good.
Got to have our chemicals for our jet fuel, right?
Yeah, if I were to leave work, you guys would all be dead.
Well,
You're like that guy from Lost who has to push the button.
Yes, I am.
Well, it's not to scare anybody, but if this virus mutates a couple more times, we'll all be dead. So it doesn't really matter.
It's the end.
Well, China's already lifted their quarantine. So
I don't believe anything that they say.
No way.
You know what they did? They just took all the sick people and killed them.
Yeah, they just burned everybody.
I'm also joined today by Matthew Kadish, author of the Earthman Jack saga and the new book Lawman, available on Amazon and Audible. How you doing,
Wherever
Matt?
fine literature is sold. And not so fine literature as well.
The Audible one is, do you read it?
No, I have a very talented voice actor who does it for me.
We talked about that.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear you.
I'll send you
one of your books.
I tried doing the narration for Earthman Jack, and I just don't think I have. These guys joke that I sound like George Lucas. I can't imagine listening to George Lucas for like 24 hours in unabridged format. So I don't think anyone wants to listen to me trying to read this stuff. I leave that to the voice acting professionals.
You've got a really good narrator, I got to tell you. I'm really impressed with that guy.
Yeah, Reese is great.
So my brother corrected me the other day, speaking of French stuff. So I visited him to pick up my mom. I think I told you about that when I drove out to Palm Springs right before all this scare. And I've always called it LaCroix. I was like, oh, hey, can I have one of
the sparkling water.
Yeah. And he's like, and he starts laughing. I was like, what's so funny? He's like, he's gay, so I'm going to do it like as best an impersonation as I can. He's like, you silly bitch, it's called La Croix. I was like, really? Because I'm pretty sure even on the commercials they say LaCroix. They're wrong. I'm telling you.
They're wrong.
It's La Croix. Say it right. Well, can I have a La Croix? Yes, you can have a La Croix.
I thought he was going to say La Croix.
The Croix.
It's La Croix.
Uh-huh. Oh, La Croix.
Can I have it with my croissant? With some LaCroix.
And my French toast.
Some my French bread.
With my freedom fries.
Zutalu.
Sacre bleu.
Talking about funny accents. Can we talk about Avenue 5?
Oh,
We've
yeah.
got,
Oh, my God.
We totally
we've got
can.
Hugh Laurie on there just
What a great
killing it.
segue. Yes.
Killing it with his fake British accent and his fake American
His
accent.
fake American accent that he can't hold.
Yeah.
Every time
he gets
mad,
frustrated, he just
starts
loses
going
it.
back to his British one. So
I love how like he just switches accents so flawlessly. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. He kills it in this show.
So let's just set the stage for a second here. So basically, Avenue 5, it's the new comedy series from the creators of Veep, which was the Julia Louis-Dreyfus political satire comedy on HBO.
mm-hmm.
And this is like a science fiction show. It's about a luxury cruise liner called Avenue 5, which is run by this company called Judd Industries. And the character of Judd is like this.
Josh Gad.
He's Josh Gad, but he's kind of like an Elon Musk type.
I don't know about that.
Well, like Elon Musk type in terms of like being an entrepreneur and doing like.
He's a trust fund baby.
Like,
Yeah, he's
weird
like
stuff.
he's a complete and total
But
dumbass.
Yeah.
again, setting the stage. So basically, he's this like very wealthy, independent financier who creates a luxury space cruise line for space tourism. And this is his fifth ship, its fifth voyage, and something goes terribly wrong in the first episode that knocks the ship off course so that what was supposed to be like a 6-week cruise, space cruise, basically turns into a potential 3-year journey back to Earth. And it's filled with all these like bizarre characters, the captain of which is played by Hugh Laurie from House, and we have all the ship crews, like people and like the passengers and the mission control people at home and stuff like that. And so when we first started watching this, me and Jude were instantly on board, but Alex and Matt were both like, "This show's stupid. I don't think it's funny."
I was in that party as well. It took me because you were like, we were going to talk about it, and I was like, oh man, I couldn't. Like I watched the first couple episodes.
It was hard to get into, huh?
It
was
really
almost
was
too dumb.
It was, but I gave it a chance, and it was like,
and it's one of those shows where like because it's a half-hour comedy, you have to binge it in order to truly appreciate how brilliant it is. Because when we were first watching the show, it was week to week.
Yeah.
And because I'd kind of watched Veep in the same way, I kind of knew what to expect with it. I just knew the show was going to get really good. But you guys were all just like, I can't watch this. This is dumb. It's not funny.
No, that makes sense because it was better binging the last, I think 7 episodes because there's 10 episodes, or is there 9?
9.
There's 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I binged the last 6 episodes because I watched the first 3 like weekly. And
it's hard. Yeah, it was hard to get through.
It was.
So what's your guys' opinion now that you've gotten to see the whole first season?
Danny, go ahead. You can start.
It grew on me because the situation is so absurd and the people in it are just so like I've never been on an actual cruise. I'm actually one of those guys, kind of like a Bill Burr guy, talk shit about people who go on cruises. I'm very much on board with Bill Maher's last rant. I don't know if you saw his rant about how they should close down the cruise line industry. It was on his last episode of Real Time last week. I'm very much on board with that. So having that mind frame watching this, it was funny because I was like, yeah, these are the type of dipshits that do this kind of thing. Just these clueless, like, wow, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. Clueless, rich, entitled.
They're walking memes.
They are walking memes. Like, like you were saying earlier, it was supposed to be 6 weeks and a potential 3 years. And in the last episode, that lady who likes to think
Spoilers.
she runs. Oh, yeah.
We're doing full
There's going to be
spoilers
tons of spoilers.
Yeah.
Well, now she jettisoned everything out of the wrong airlock, and so now it's like an 8-year mission or something, or an 8-year cruise. I'm like, oh my god, these people are.
And by the way, the physics in this show do not make any sense.
No.
But they are used very funny.
That was one of the sticking points that I had with it when I was first watching it, being like a sci-fi fan, Star Trek, Stargate, stuff like that, where they try to at least try and like stick to real world physics. And I was watching this show, and I'm like, this doesn't make any
don't
sense.
care. This is like Orville science.
Yeah, it's. But it's so, if you can kind of just enjoy it for the ridiculousness that it is, It's really dark humor too.
Oh yeah,
that
show is very dark.
I was very surprised
about the airlock episode.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was so good. And those idiots kept going back out.
It's like, I work in Hollywood in the special effects industry.
I'm sorry, Matt.
They should have thrown that lady out.
I was thinking of you when I saw that character. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. That stands for visual effects.
I know what
VFX.
visual effects means.
Yeah.
That's not what the F stands for.
But no, like it got really. I actually find myself wanting to see season 2.
Oh, yeah.
But no, Hugh Laurie is
perfect.
Fucking brilliant in it, man.
Yeah,
he's definitely the best part of that show.
Dude, that part where he takes his wig off.
Oh my god, that point! I was like, oh my god, no, don't do that.
It took him so long to do it. He's like peeling it off of his head.
But like the one crew member who like kept the wig because she kind of liked it.
Did you guys notice? She noticed she put it up on her mantle next to her workstation. It was just sitting there.
Yeah, that was so beat up. Like he puts it back on, and the lady just takes off. This is fake, just like everything else is fake. It's an airlock.
It's like
episode.
A movie set.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's just cheap.
It's cost effective. And the other thing too. Okay, well, Vader, what was your starting opinion, and then having finished it, what's your opinion now on this show?
When I first started it, I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I did not like it.
Yeah.
I didn't. It was really hard for me to get into.
Same.
And then I think right around the time they launched the shit out the pipe, and they created the shit ring around the ship.
Because of the Pope.
that was the start of you. I'm like, okay, this is good. I think I'm going to be into this.
They established that the starship is so massive that it has its own gravity.
Creates its own gravity.
So like anything that they shoot out, if there's not enough velocity, it gets caught in this gravity circle around the ship. And throughout the season, there's like this running joke of stuff that just gets sucked into the ship's gravity, like dead bodies. and then they have this poop shield, which is like a legit thing where like the human waste from the ship gets recirculated to absorb the solar radiation.
Yep.
And it springs a leak. It's
the only thing in the show that actually might be legit.
It springs a leak, and it just starts shooting all this shit out the side of the ship, and it gets caught in the gravity. So like, there's just this ring of shit that's like rotating around the ship constantly.
It's like, ooh, let's put lights on it, make it pretty.
Yeah, but they're like, if we have to look at it, we might as well make it pretty. So like, they create like this laser show. Yeah. And once the lights hit it, they see the face of Pope John Paul II in the shit. And so like people start getting really religious, and they like congregate in the chapel to watch John Paul's face come by every hour or so. They have like little pictures of him like posted on the wall.
I also get a big kick out of the tours of the bridge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Of the non-working fake bridge.
Yeah, with the actors and yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because Judd is so image conscious that like they hired not actual like spaceship pilots for like the ship. They just hired a bunch of actors to portray spaceship, like what people think spaceship pilots should look like. And they don't actually control anything on the bridge. Like the bridge is like everything on the ship is on autopilot. Nobody knows how to work it.
Forward thrust is nominal, sir.
Yeah. They just repeat the same script. I did like the point where Hugh Laurie's character quit as being captain, and they brought in Neelix to replace him.
Yeah.
He's sitting up there, and he's like, tell me, he asked him to do something, and they responded with that script, and he's like, that's not really what I asked you, but okay, we can deal with that.
And
he's like standing at the
it's like, that's funny, this thing's not reacting.
Neelix's character is like an actual astronaut, but he's like retired, and he's just kind of like on the ship as like as an attraction almost. But like he has some great lines, like where that guy from The Office, who's the lady's husband, he's like, maybe I'll grow a ponytail like that guy. He's like, oh, no, you can't grow this ponytail. I have very strong follicles. He's like this old hippie.
Yeah. When I first started watching the show, I found it super difficult to get into. I was like, it was too dumb for me. The comedy was like on that level of like just overly stupid. And I couldn't get into it, but then I knew we were going to do the season 1 recap of it, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to binge. I think I binged 5 episodes in a row, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it was just the difference in watching it binge-worthy versus week to week, but I found the comedy was, they must have upped the not the dial on the comedy a little bit, because when I was watching it, I was like, this is so much funnier than the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
Like,
I think they eased into the dark humor, and then they just kind of turned it all the way
I
up.
completely disagree, because from the first episode onward, it's always been like this. But the thing about these comedies is that once you get to know the characters and you kind of understand what they're going for in terms of the tone of the show, you get into it. Like for instance, having the second president being Alexa, basically. Like there are two presidents in this future, and one of them is human, and one of them is just like a AI that is like a little Alexa like thing that makes decisions.
okay, your acquisition, or what did he say?
Well, he proves it, but he's like, you gotta kill 500 people.
Yeah, can you?
Jesus, like that. Only a machine would be that coolly calculated.
And then the delay when she's like, they told me that I had to kill 300 or 500 people, and then it just cut, and they're like, what?
Oh yeah, like this show is filled with great little gags. Like for instance, there's like a 30-second delay between communication from Earth and the ship.
Yeah.
And so every time they have to do like a conversation with people on Earth, it's like so awkward, and nobody knows what the f is being said.
It's like watching a news network like try to talk to their anchors out in the field.
Yeah.
It's like that delay.
Always takes a second. This one is like,
okay, Bob.
seconds.
Yeah, we got this going on.
But like once you get to know the characters, like this show becomes like so much more like rich and in depth. Like for instance, the unfunny comic, the stand-up comic.
Oh, yeah.
The kid from yesterday.
Yeah. Who's just like really bad at telling jokes.
Yeah.
And then you have my favorite character, Matt, the cruise line director guy.
Oh, yeah. He's also from The Office too.
But he's also from Silicon Valley.
Oh, okay.
He was in that as well. Played a completely different character.
Well, you can thank him for all those airlock deaths.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
Oh my god!
And it was great.
All a simulation.
They really went dark. I mean, there was that one family with a kid.
Yes, that was very dark.
Oh yeah, they left their kid in a coma and went on the cruise.
And then as soon as they die, they get the message that their son woke up from the coma. And people are like, "What are we going to tell them?"
Yeah.
So for those of you who haven't seen the episode yet, so there's this whole subplot where they have to basically get rid of 500 crew members worth of weight on the ship in order to try to get home in a reasonable amount of time, like instead of 3 years, like 3 weeks, something like that. So they're all trying to figure out what's non-essential on the ship that they can eject out the rear airlock in order to give them an acceleration boost. And while they're doing this, people are kind of like on edge and pissed off and stuff like that. And there's all these little things going on with the crew that makes the passengers think that they're being lied to.
Actually, they think they're on like a game show.
Yeah,
reality show, like Big Brother.
They think they're on like a fake reality show simulation type thing. And so it gets to the point where they believe that if they go out the airlock, they'll just be able to go back home, and like they're not actually trapped on a spaceship.
Yeah, like a Truman Show.
There was even like a line where she's like, "They're probably in the green room,"
and all the crew are like, "No, we're actually in space. If you go in the airlock, you're going to die." And there's this one woman who's like, "I'm a visual effects artist in Hollywood, and I can spot special effects from a mile away, and this is all fake."
Yeah,
and everyone believes her. And so like, there's this one guy. Where they kind of had this couple who was like a joke throughout the series, where like they went on a cruise while their only son was in a coma, and they're like, "We have to get back to our son," and the father goes into the airlock. And the minute the airlock opens, he just freezes.
Yeah,
and like there's little droplets of blood.
No, then his eyes pop out or something too.
Yeah.
It was like
his eyes exploded,
and everyone like freaks out, and the woman's like,
"No, that was fake."
Yeah. She was like, "That was so fake." And so like people keep going in the airlock to prove it's fake and dying, and the crew's just like, "What are you guys doing?"
Even though one, what was her name, Sarah? Like she hits the side, and her arm like breaks off, and then the visual effects lady's finally like, "Okay, that might be real."
Yeah.
It's like, why would they make that an effect?
Yeah.
And it's funny because Sarah was one of my favorite characters because she was part of the bridge crew, and she was in her day job, she was a hand model.
And it's her hand against the I missed that.
And like she had this weird thing where she was always in character as quote unquote Sarah. But so people kept asking, is this character Sarah or real Sarah talking? And towards the end there, she was like, even I don't know at this point.
It's very subtle.
She was always in character. Like she was like, I've been in character for 3 weeks now, and it's getting really hard.
So let's go across the board. Favorite character and favorite episode. Matt, what do you got?
Favorite character
and favorite episode.
Probably the captain. Hugh Laurie. I don't know why. He just kind of stands out in my head. And my favorite episode would definitely be the shit breaking line.
Okay.
When the poop goes all the way around. Yeah.
You know what's great about Hugh Laurie is like in the final episode of the season, they did this thing where they have to search for Matt, and Matt like changed the airlock codes because he was so traumatized about everyone killing themselves in the airlock.
Well, it was his big inspiring speech.
Yeah, and they needed to get the airlock codes in order to eject the excess cargo at a certain time. Otherwise, they were going to miss their window. So they're searching everywhere for Matt, and Hugh Laurie, they go to his quarters, and he's like, I think I know where he might be. And it's just like a real take charge, like Star Trek captain moment. Mm-hmm. And then like they go to the place where he thinks he might be. He's not there. And he's like, I don't know why I thought I could do anything. I'm not a real captain. I'm not effective. I'm an actor. I don't do anything. Like they gave him this moment where like he was like showing real leadership. And then he just comes to realize I'm not a leader. Why am I doing this?
It gets completely undercut by reality. Like, you don't actually know what you're doing. I love that part where the guy, I think he was with Judd, right? Yeah. He was with Judd at that point, and they go into this big white room with the fan at the end, and Judd's like, what is this place? And he's like, it's the antechamber for the thrusters or whatever. And he's like, why does the thrusters need an antechamber? He's like, I don't know. He's like, oh yeah, that's right. You don't know anything.
It's just an excuse to have like a big white room with a fan. And when they finally find Matt, they were like, we thought you were in the thruster antechamber. He's like, what would I be doing there? And they're like, we don't know.
He's been just wandering around the ship the whole time.
There's a lot of those like real, and you just mentioned, just brought one to my attention, was the hand model thing. There's a lot of those setup things in the beginning that are like paid off in hilarious ways at the end. So it's a good stuff. Danny, favorite character and favorite episode?
The airlock episode's got to be my favorite episode. Just the illustration of the retardation of these people was just like, I was like, how many more people are going to keep going in there?
I honestly thought they were going to kill more. I thought it was going to be like a whole chunk of them.
I thought that was going to be how they got the 500.
There's 500 people. And then but the Hugh Laurie's character by far for me is the most interesting. He's got like the divorce thing.
The tri-divorce or whatever.
Because he has a husband and a wife.
Yeah, he's in a poly relationship.
Where he gets kicked out of, like when him and Josh Gad's character Judd get into that fight, and then he basically fires him. And he's like, "No, I quit." But then he takes away all his privileges, so nobody will feed him and stuff like that.
It's like, where am I supposed to sleep?
Yeah, he gets kicked out of his room.
He's got no Judd bucks.
Yeah,
no Judd bucks.
So. Definitely Hugh Laurie, and definitely the that airlock episode. So dark.
Before I forget, I did want to say that if you look at the titles of these episodes, they're very much titled the same way we title our episodes of the podcast, where we just take a random funny line from the movie and we make it the title. And I was like looking through the titles of the episodes, and I'm like, oh my God, they're doing the same thing. They just take some random line, has nothing to do with the overall plot. They just say like, oh, this guy said something funny, and this kind of has something to do with whatever they're talking about. Is that what we do? Yeah. Isn't that what we do?
I do have a question.
I don't know why you do these things.
Cats the movie?
The movie. Doesn't Will Smith have something to do with this?
He's a producer on it.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. I saw his name in the pop up in the credits, but
cool.
I didn't see what it was.
He's one of the producers.
Oh. So that just means he just helped pay for it, probably.
Yeah.
He probably helped get it made.
Yeah.
Matt's a producer on the podcast.
Yeah. I don't do anything.
He does more than you think. He tells me to shut up and do work when I'm like being lazy.
Get to work.
Make the thumbnails.
I'm like the real life Judd. I'm like, Iris.
You're way more.
Oh, okay. So
you're way more endearing.
Yeah. My favorite episode, I think it probably have to be the airlock episode, also, just because how dark it went. I loved how dark it went.
And like as dark as this show gets, it's hilarious.
It is.
It's like so ridiculously dark where you're just like, okay, I'm on board with it.
I think that was probably my favorite episodes, and I think Iris might actually, besides Hugh Laurie, because Hugh Laurie I think is above and beyond most anybody on the show, but Iris. Her just complete salt and angst towards everybody. I'm like, I love that woman.
And it sucks because now she's not on the ship anymore.
I know. I wonder what they're going to do with that.
That was a real bummer.
I think she's going to start running Mission Control in season 2.
That might be true.
That would be good. That would be perfect for her.
There was one thing I did notice about this last episode that I thought was kind of cool, and that was there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes in the belly of the ship. when they were out looking for Matt and everything. And I kind of maybe compare the Strip down here and the big fancy casinos I work at.
Oh, yeah.
Because you go up on the casino level in the restaurants and everything is gorgeous and beautiful and looks expensive. And it looks expensive. Okay, it's plastic. It's all plastic. And you go through the little employees only door and it's like a maze of boxes and dirty floors, and they do these things going for miles. And it's just it's kind of cool, how they kind of captured that.
I used to work security on the Strip too. Well, same thing.
It's very true to actual cruise ships too, like because like the employees' quarters and stuff, like they were showing pictures of it because the coronavirus was real big on cruise ships. And like they pack them in there, like their rooms, their little bunks and everything.
Right. Can we talk about the gag where like the ship's crew, like housekeeping crew, started like leaving like towels in the shape of sphincters on people's beds?
There was like
just fun with people.
I really thought that they were going to go farther with that because they introduced that in like what, episode 4?
One.
Episode one? Okay, I thought they were going to keep going with that and have like some kind of like a crew revolt where they were just going to stop cooking food for these people, and it never went that way. Maybe we'll see that in season 2. But
my favorite character is my namesake, Matt. Because like in every episode, like every scene he's in, he just steals, and
he's so awkward.
He is awkward, but like when he's playing like counselor or therapist, and he has like the word cloud with like like male bitch, like stuff like that. But like if you just listen to his interactions, like every time like he speaks, everything that comes out of his mouth is hilarious, and like you don't always catch it on the first viewing, but if you go back and just watch his scenes. Like his stuff is phenomenal.
There's a great example of that when he was talking about heading to the bar for to bury your father, whatever your daddy issues in alcohol, and he's like, "And don't worry, your dad won't be there because he never is." It's just like Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
But even the final episode where like he's hiding and everyone's looking for him, and like Judd and Hugh Laurie finally find him, and they're like and he's like, "Why were you looking for me?" He's like, "Because you were hiding," and he's like, well, aren't we all hiding? That's a big metaphor.
He does that a lot.
Yeah.
Like with the airlock speech, he's like, life is a simulation.
And this is a simulation. You're not wrong. But if you go out there, you will die in the simulation.
And they're like, we don't know if this is helping or not, because like the metaphor is good, but like we think he's still encouraging people to kill themselves.
I really wish they would have kept the other billionaire guy around.
Oh, the one that died in the airlock.
Well, the great thing about having a ship with like 5,000 passengers is like they can just keep introducing like new ones. So my favorite character was definitely Matt, and I have like a toss up for my favorite episode. So I really loved the episode where Hugh Laurie finds out that everyone on the bridge is fake and like he doesn't actually control anything. And because I just felt that reveal was like really well done, and it really set the stage for a lot of the series to come. But then the other episode I really enjoyed was the one where there's like a beeping sound on the ship.
Yeah.
And they think that it means that they're running out of oxygen, and they can't find the source of the beep. And it's like one of those things where you have like a smoke detector in your house that's like low on battery, and it'll just beep randomly and it'll scare the fuck out of you and make you like crazy. And because like while this is going on, like it happens every 20 minutes or so, no one can get any sleep because it keeps waking them up.
Something really subtle that I thought.
So like they start turning to drugs, and people think that the captain's a drug addict.
The sedatives were for you.
Yeah,
because he's trying to sedate Judd.
Yeah, he's trying to get sedatives to sedate Judd. But he thinks that, Matt, who's his dealer, thinks that he has like a drug problem. So he starts spreading this rumor about him having a drug problem.
There's just a ton of fun stuff in this show. I definitely recommend it. Now that you can binge the whole season and they're only like half hour long.
It's definitely a show you got to binge.
Yeah.
You could do it in an afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but in quarantine for sure. Yeah. Everybody's at home sitting around trying to find stuff to watch. Go watch Avenue 5. Even though we all spoiled it for you, it's still funny.
Yeah. Like when you actually sit there and watch it, there's so many gags in every scene of the show that we can't do it justice. Like you have to watch it to experience. And it's one of those shows where like it may not be funny as you're watching it, but when you talk about it with friends, it becomes so much funnier.
Definitely. I laugh more talking to you guys about it than I do when I'm watching it. But yeah, it's a great show. Highly recommended. And talking about another great show on HBO, we can kind of transition over to Westworld. Episode 2 of Season 2.
And the Winter Line?
I really won't be able to...
Is that what it was called? The Winter Line?
Yes.
I haven't watched it yet either.
Yeah, well, I haven't even watched Season 2. I've watched Season 1 and loved it. Okay. I was going to binge Season 2, then a bunch of my friends said it sucked. You don't need to watch it.
You have terrible friends.
It was good, but I think they kind of overcomplicated things a little bit. It was really hard to watch, and I would I'm not like I'm not super smart, so this show is kind of above my intelligence level when it's like all these plot lines and all this stuff. Matt's probably better able to keep track of all that stuff being a writer, but when I'm watching it, I get super confused. And the person that I kind of lean on, he does really great videos on, breaks down storylines and plot lines and kind of explains everything to you, is Hack's Dogma. He's the guy who wrote this book, Cyclic, right here. Mm-hmm. His YouTube channel is fantastic for kind of like breaking down the show and making it digestible for the simpleton that I am.
I do plan on, during this quarantine, finally checking out Season 2, and then I'm thinking about waiting to binge Season 3 instead of just...
Yeah.
You know.
I feel like Season 2 was very much a transition season. So like it was a season meant to set up Season 3, which I think is going to be where the meat of the show kind of comes into play. Like the first season was set up, second season's transition, the third season's going to be like where crap really starts to go down. It was kind of like that with Nolan's other show, Person of Interest, as well. Very different shows, but like kind of structurally by the time they got to the third season, they were kind of into their main storyline of like having the AI be like this like godlike figure and dealing with it and stuff.
So it's been a while. When they ended Season 1, weren't they basically going into like the samurai world type of thing, or they introduced that?
That was only like 1 or 2 episodes in Season 2. They set that up. But they didn't spend a lot of time.
They set up the robot revolution by the end of Season 1.
At the end of Season 1, the robots came and just started killing all the guests.
Right.
It was like this big revolt.
No, I remember that. I didn't know if they were like, the first season was all like, the Westworld. So like in the West, I didn't know if like Season 2 was just going to be like all samurai stuff or whatever. And then like Season 3 is like a different one of their worlds.
Maeve spent a good chunk of time in samurai world, but the show itself kind of like was all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah, the Season 2 really gets kind of away from the basic Westworld concept of like being a Western and kind of gets more into the sci-fi end of things.
Okay.
And then Season 3 is very much just about like the sci-fi end of things, and Westworld is kind of like a small part of that. And but I gotta say, I loved the second episode. Like the first episode I thought was good, but this episode freaking blew me away because I was captivated from beginning to end on this episode. The one thing that took me out of it was there was a Benioff and Weiss cameo in the middle of the show. Yeah. Where like they're both like
technicians inside Westworld
with Drogon,
with the dragon sitting in there, and they're like, they're working on it. It's really funny. It was cool to see, and I'm like, hey, that's D&D. Well, they're in Westworld. Game of Thrones is a park inside Westworld.
That would be pretty. Wouldn't that be awesome?
I was like, I'm just my fan theory, but I'm like, okay, that's legit. So D&D were the creators of this new park. They were the guys who created this like medieval fantasy world for guests to go and play, and that's what we saw in Westworld was this, this storyline play out. And I'm like, I'd just like to think that once Ford saw the storyline play out, he demoted both of those guys down to technicians. They're no longer allowed to write narratives. Get them out here.
and they're the ones assigned to carve up the characters and salvage their pieces.
Yeah, they're just low-level technicians.
I guess I should have stepped out for this conversation. Now it's spoiled.
No,
it's fine.
It has nothing. It's like a 1-second thing. Blink and you'll miss it. It's not really anything to do with the plot.
But it was funny because like Jude kind of missed Dan and Dave's cameo, but she saw Drogon. They're like, are they just reusing assets from Game of Thrones to like because they're running out of money?
I thought that was a really cool thing, and I think they addressed it at the end.
But episode 2 was Maeve centric, so it was all about the Maeve character, whereas episode 1 was all about Dolores and Bernard. Even though Bernard's in the second episode as well, but like you're really starting to see that they're setting up kind of like Dolores to be like the show's main villain and Maeve to be like the show's main hero. And it is a really interesting transition type thing. And We got to find out that Scruggs is actually a host, which is kind of it
was hinted at.
It was theorized a lot in season 2, and it was finally confirmed here. And he like kind of teams up with Bernard, so now we have the Bernard and Scruggs buddy cop show. Where
I don't want to give it away, but I like the part where he was like, he reprogrammed him to you're going
to be his
protect me with at all costs, and he's like, you could have just asked me to do that.
Yeah, because Scruggs because he completed his programming that Ford gave him, he just keeps trying to kill himself the whole episode. and then finally Bernard's just like, don't kill yourself, just change your mission.
Yeah, just stay with me.
Not that I would do this, but the same terrible friends both said that I could probably just jump into season 3 and I wouldn't miss anything.
No, you would be lost.
I would be. Okay.
There was a lot of stuff that happened in season 2 that kind of lays the groundwork for what's happening in season 3. And Westworld, it's one of those shows like The Wire where it's almost like a novel that's being translated on the screen, and you really need to watch it from the beginning to know who the characters are, know what the world is, because they really take a lot of time and effort to set up everything in this universe that they've created. And if you skip parts of it, you start to lose the impact of things that's revealed later on in the show. So I would not listen to your terrible friend. I would watch it. I would watch it, right from the beginning, back to back if you can.
I haven't watched season 2 since it came out. It might be a good idea to go back and watch it and actually binge it and kind of get an idea.
That's what Jude and I did before season 3.
I finished episode 3 of season 2 the other day. I'll probably go home and watch a few more today after we're done here. But
yeah, a lot of people kind of lost interest in the show around season 2. Number one, because it took them a year in between seasons. So they took a year off and then it premiered 2 years later basically. And but season 2 started getting kind of metaphysical in certain respects.
The story got real thick.
So it wasn't quite as straightforward as season 1 was. And I think a lot of people got frustrated by that because it was dealing with a lot of what does it mean to be human?
Also, the timelines were all over the place. Too.
Yeah. Well,
are they still doing that?
Not in season 3, but season 2 is.
The interesting thing about the timeline stuff is that because the hosts, who are the robots, they experience time in a different way. They can be living they can be living in their memories in addition to being in the present. And so as we go throughout the show, we get these, alternate reality experiences where we're seeing what they're experiencing in parallel with what they're actually experiencing. And it can be confusing if you're not really paying attention to it. But like for instance, season 2 was all about Bernard's perception of reality. And Bernard had some memory issues going on. So at first it becomes confusing, but by the end of the season, everything is made clear, at least I thought so. So I never had a problem with it. But then again, I think I watch things a little bit more closely than most people do.
Yeah, you have that writer's brain that helps you analyze these things a lot easier.
Something I do, it's not a great habit, and it's why I have to rewatch stuff a lot. And so I work on websites, among other things. So sometimes I'll just sit down and I'll just start a website, and I'm one of those guys without realizing it, 8, 10, 12 hours has passed, but because I'm just so in the zone trying to get it all done. And so I'll usually throw something on. Most of the time it's something I've already seen, so I don't have to pay attention to it. And sometimes, it's something I haven't seen. So I have to inevitably rewatch it because I miss stuff.
But I'll say this, if you're a fan of the first season of Westworld, I feel like season 3 is going to be your bag because it gets back to more.
I love season 1.
It gets back more to that kind of simpler story. And this second episode, where basically it's based around Maeve and she's in War World, which is basically a World War II simulation.
Okay.
And I just found this episode captivating from beginning to end because everything she did in this episode was it was almost like an old caper type film, but we didn't see anything about Dolores or the real world or anything like that, and I didn't miss it at all because the story for this episode at least was just so captivating to me. And I was totally invested from beginning to end. So I was very happy with this episode.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it too, and I'm glad that they're kind of going back to that simpler storyline, a couple less plot threads.
There was still a lot of plot twists and some good action scenes.
Oh yeah, the plot twist was crazy in this one. It was like I don't want to give away too much.
And we get to meet who could be the big bad of the season by the very end. Like, we don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy yet. Yeah. But he was very interesting, I thought. And
I like that actor too. Yeah. I'm really happy to see him in this.
I kind of wish they had gotten more of a name actor like they did with like Anthony Hopkins and stuff like that in the previous seasons. But yeah, I mean, like he's good. He's got an interesting look to him.
He's so I like him because he's got that like really affluent. How do you say that word? Affluent air to him. You know, he's just. I like that. I think he's really good at doing it. He did it in was it Ocean's 12? I think he was the main bad guy in that one.
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, he was in that one or one of the Ocean's movies.
He's one of those like really good foreign character actors that does one thing really well.
He's really good at playing an asshole.
Yeah, I feel like it might have been better if it was like Antonio Banderas or something like that.
I would have been down for that. All right, cool. Any final thoughts on episode 2, or you guys haven't watched it yet? So I guess
I can't wait for episode 3. I'm really into this season.
I really, you know what? Because of this freaking quarantine bullcrap, I'm like, HBO just dropped the whole season. Just do it,
right?
Just drop. We're all bored.
No, HBO, they stick to their week-to-week releases.
Good for them. Stick to their guns.
There's lots of other stuff to watch.
Yeah, but you can binge a lot of it. Like, I want to binge his Dark Materials stuff because I never got around to finishing that.
I kind of lost interest in it.
McMillions is pretty good. That's only 3 episodes.
I'm about halfway through that with the wife.
Yeah.
I got to watch, I got to finish Altered Carbon Season 2.
I want to watch.
I need to watch that too.
I want to finish watching Silicon Valley. I never finished watching.
Oh, we're getting into the. Well, let's just transition. What's our quarantine watch list? So, quarantine watch list for me: Altered Carbon Season 2. You just brought up Dark Materials was kind of intriguing, so I might try and pick that up again. Flicks. I always watch like Star Trek on the background.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah,
that's like a given.
I have the next gen Blu-rays, and they're so gorgeous. The sound on them is so great.
I got some stuff I'm watching.
Go ahead, shoot it to me. What do you got?
So the wife and I, since we have to spend our evenings together now, we've decided we're going to watch The Hunters on Prime.
Oh yeah.
Excellent show. I'm only 2 episodes in, but it's really good so far.
It looks really fun.
Yeah. I need to finish Westworld. Let's put that. I'm stuttering again. I'm going to put that on the list. I watched a couple shows on YouTube that were put out by Vice TV or something like that. The Dark Side of Wrestling. Great
that was
show.
Good. I've
really
seen that.
Great show.
Yeah,
you're a big time wrestler fan too.
I like the wrestlings. Yeah, I like shows like this. This they go deep into the Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit.
Yeah, how many episodes are there?
I think there's 2.
It's just 2.
Yeah, the second part came out last night, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And they're on YouTube.
Hour long.
Yeah, about an hour long.
Like documentary style?
Yeah.
It's really
shows
good.
you like the dark. Well, like it is the dark side of wrestling. Like that one dude. Like who's the guy that got murdered?
Chris Benoit murdered.
No. Well, I know about that, but the one they talked about, it was like
Eddie Guerrero.
No. It was he got like stabbed or something, and then died in the hospital.
I forget his name, but that was before that. But
it was an older guy, old like wrestled way back.
I was watching the pay per view.
Bruiser Brody, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
I was watching the pay per view where Chris Hart fell from the rafters and died.
I saw that too.
No, unfortunately, I remember. Yeah, I had a whole bunch of people over at the house for that. That was back when I lived in North Carolina.
But I find the whole wrestling world kind of fascinating.
Oh, it's
I always
like
have.
High school.
Have you been watching it lately? It's so weird with the empty arenas.
Yeah, without
no
the arenas,
crowd.
Yeah.
So they're just wrestling, just 2 dudes?
Yeah, I think AEW did it a lot better though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because they got the wrestlers as the crowd. So they're interacting with stuff. Yeah, it's good.
That was way better. Because like WWE right now, all they're doing is it's just because you can't have more than 10 people. So they've got the commentators, they got the cameramen, and then they've got the wrestlers, and that's it. And like there was one part you could actually hear the director. It was so quiet in there, you could hear the director through one of the cameraman's headsets.
Yes.
You know what they should
during
do?
like the Undertaker's thing.
Yeah, it's strange.
They should get the actual wrestlers to just do online matches with like WWE 2020 or like whatever, and just like broadcast that with like a live stream, like their heads. Yeah,
it's so
like
bizarre.
a Twitch stream.
It's weird because they're doing their full shows.
Yeah.
But like WWE's doing it in the Performance Center where they train everybody and do their NXT stuff.
Yeah.
but there's no audience. So they go through all the intros, all the pyro and the fireworks, and they go through the whole thing.
There's nobody there.
No crowd.
There's no crowd.
And it's the weirdest thing.
It is weird.
It is very strange.
But I
do
will
they
say,
show the empty arena? They don't like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And it's weird. Like even they kind of sometimes it's kind of funny because like they'll actually cut to the empty seats. Like, it was just like, I think they're doing it just to be funny. But so AEW is this other wrestling promotion.
Do they put up like the signs on the seat? Just like tape them up there?
They should, though.
They should.
That's more AEW's.
Yeah. AEW's like been doing it way better, I think, because they still have they do the same thing with the intros and everything. But then, like he was saying, there's crew members or other wrestlers.
The locker room is in the crowd.
Is in the crowd, and so and then like they cut to the one dude and they're making bets on the matches. And stuff
it's like Jake the Snake Roberts is over there,
just
plotting some nonsense with somebody else.
So they're doing it way because WWE is like frustrating me because what they've been doing instead of like doing a whole show, they'll do like 1 or 2 matches and then they just re-air old pay-per-view matches to help fill in their 2-hour chunk on SmackDown or 3-hour chunk on Raw, which I hate. Whereas AEW is like putting on a full show. Yeah. And it's just so
what sucks for WWE right now is WrestleMania is in like 2 weeks. This is their big time of the year.
Now it's their Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is the time of year where even like all the closet or all the fence sitting fans, they kind of come out and watch
your fair weather
the build up.
Yeah.
They watch the build up for the 6 weeks that lead up to WrestleMania. So this is like their big time of year where they sell all those.
Aren't they still going through with it?
Oh, they're
going to be strange.
Taping it.
Yeah,
they're breaking it up into 2 nights, so it's going to be Saturday night and Sunday night. And they're actually, I believe they're shooting it now
in the Performance Center.
In the Performance Center, they're taping it now, and they're going to try to present it as a live show because you'll never know.
Yeah, it's
different.
very strange.
And it's a bizarre time for a wrestling fan.
Gronkowski's hosting.
Yeah. Gronk.
I don't know who any of these people are.
He's a football player.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's very strange.
So do you have any other quarantine?
I think I'm going to get caught up with Walking Dead maybe depending on how long this thing lasts. I quit watching when Rick got carted off in a helicopter, so I got a lot of stuff to watch.
I quit watching when they killed Carl because I was a big fan. Yeah, see,
I don't even think I made it that far.
Danny used to be like a Walking Dead super fan.
No, I used to throw
he'd throw like big viewer parties and stuff.
It was, but yeah, when I remember.
I'm hoping there's like I can watch like maybe 5 or 6 episodes and just kind of.
I know, is this the right time to do? Because I actually made a joke the other day. Yesterday's, in fact, because every time I'm out, I'm like, well, I might as well, see if I can find some toilet paper.
I got plenty of toilet paper.
Not me, man. If the shit hits the fan, like
literally,
I'll be like, I got 12 rolls in my house, which that's it. And we've got my son. So
we've got
looking.
I think 24 rolls. We go through like 2 rolls a week.
Yeah,
and so it's just the 2 of us.
I've been getting on my son. I'm like, two squares, 2 squares, 2 squares.
Getting away from the toilet paper. The Walking Dead, they're getting ready to release a new limited series called.
I love it when we get derailed. Yeah, he just like, okay, guys, bring it back in.
We're talking about toilet paper.
Bring it back in, guys.
but I mean, like, is Fear the Walking Dead even still going on?
Yeah,
I think so. And then
I haven't watched any of it since season 1.
They're getting ready to do another spinoff, which is based around like teenagers, but it's only a limited series, so it's only going to be like 2 seasons long or something.
It might hit a little too close to home because, like I said, when I was at the grocery store, my buddy hit me up. He was asking me what I was doing, and I sent him a picture of my shopping cart, and I was like, I'm out here. I'm out here getting supplies like Rick Grimes. Like, this is terrible, man.
So, talking about like Walking Dead, I just remembered there was another show that I started watching was Kingdom on Netflix.
I was going to talk about that. Damn it.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, take it away, man. You're better at talking about stuff like this. I'll just jump in when I know what to say.
Okay, well, so for my quarantine watch list, I had 3 things that I really wanted to sit down and watch this time around. So since Alex brought it up, the first thing is Kingdom on Netflix. And I just finished the first season last night. And I got to say, this show is freaking bananas. If you like The Walking Dead, if you like zombies. So basically, it's about a South Korean feudal dynasty. So this is going back to like swords and like stuff like that times.
Ninjas and samurais.
Yeah. And basically, it's about this kingdom in South Korea. Where they have a zombie outbreak. and it's like Game of Thrones, but feudal Japanese style. Like it's really fascinating because the story is about this this crown prince whose father dies, but the guy who's kind of like his father's top advisor, who got the king to marry his daughter, is waiting for his daughter to give birth to a son that has a better claim to the throne, so like he can basically become the de facto king.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the father dies, basically by law, power is supposed to transition to the crown prince.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of allowing the king to simply die, he finds this plant that can resurrect the dead. And so he resurrects the king using this plant in order to keep him alive, so that at least until the new son is born, so that, you know, he can kind of retain his power. And in the meantime, the crown prince, like no one's allowed to see the king. So the crown prince is trying to start a coup in order to claim the throne for himself, because the king has been absent for so long.
He wants to make sure that everybody knows that the king is dead,
Yeah.
therefore he gets the crown. But nobody will, it's like a big conspiracy, nobody will let anybody see the king.
And so this advisor is trying to assassinate or arrest the crown prince. And the crown prince, as he's like kind of looking for proof that his father is actually dead, stumbles across this village in the south of Korea where the zombie outbreak begins. And so like he's the only competent noble in the area when the zombies start rising up and killing all the locals. And so he has to kind of step up and become this like leader in order to protect like all these peasants. And
does the zombie thing have anything to do with the plant, or are they two?
Yes.
separate?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's all related.
The emperor or king is like patient zero.
Yeah.
Because they brought him back to life and he is now a zombie.
Yeah. And what they
So
were,
it's not like bringing you back to life like the Lazarus Pit or something.
No. What they were doing is because like when this plant brings you back to life, you're basically like you crave human flesh. And so they were feeding him like, peasants. They were feeding the king peasants and then throwing the bodies in the river. And people were going through a famine because of a war with Japan.
Dude,
and so
it's got dark.
And so they were creating food that had like pieces of dead people in them.
Yeah, there was
and the virus mutated so that like, when people would consume this food, the virus would get into them and they would basically become zombies.
So what kind of zombies are we talking here? Is the
fast zombies?
Yeah, it's 28 days later.
Do they have
zombies.
but do they have their mental faculties,
No.
or they're just
No.
brainless?
They're just brainless zombies.
They're like forces of nature. It's almost like
they
zombies.
only come alive at night, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. They kind of have this weird like vampire thing going to it. But I want to set up the reason why the outbreak started was it got real dark. Like he was talking about this famine where nobody had food. The show takes you to this hospital area where all these like real sick people are. You have this really kind nurse. She's one of the main characters who's trying to help all these people.
Uh-huh.
And one of this other character who goes to this hospital to get treated, he kind of has this like end all be all survival is the utmost importance thing. So he sees that all these people are starving to death and they're going to die. These people in the hospital, they're already sick, and on top of that, they can't eat anything. They're running out of food. So he takes the body of somebody who was bitten by the emperor, chops it up, butchers them, puts them in this stew, and then feeds all these people. And this nurse finds out, and she's like, "Oh my God, like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Who cares? They're eating. They're happy." He's like, "Look, their bellies are full. They're happy."
Yeah, then this is a character who came from like the army and the war, where like they had to do this stuff themselves in order to survive.
So
he
like,
wasn't trying to make a bunch of zombies.
No, he was like, "Who cares?
Like,
you got to do what you got to do to survive."
He didn't know that this would actually kill the people he was trying to help them.
But it got dark though when they
It's called Kingdom.
Yeah.
I might have to check that.
I'm
trying to stay away from.
Well, I'm not done talking
trying
about
to
it.
stay away from dark stuff like that, to be honest with you, right now.
So like the first three, like I tried to get Jude into this show, and she watched like the first episode and like half of the second episode, and she was just like, "I'm not into this." I have to say, like the first 3 episodes, and it's only a 6-episode season 1. The first 3 episodes are very kind of slow. But like by the time the end of episode 3 came on, they started doing some really cool stuff in this show, like hardcore, like samurais versus zombie type shit. And like as the zombie outbreak gets bigger, like you start having scenes where like they're manning the walls of fortresses as an unending horde of zombies tries scaling the walls, and they're having to fight them off. And there's just all sorts of like the final scene of season 1, there's this big revelation about the zombies, and all these different characters are in different locations, and the music and the way that they cut, like showing the different characters' reactions as like this revelation kind of starts to play out, and everyone realizes that they're basically fucked. It was one of those rare moments where like I'm watching something and I can feel like my heart pounding. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? and like if season 2 hadn't just come out, I'd have been like really pissed because I'm like, I want to know what happens.
Yeah.
But I would highly recommend Kingdom season 1 on Netflix to definitely
for sure
be up there.
It's well worth it. Although it's completely in a different language. It's got subtitles, but you can do the dub.
Okay.
You can select the English dub, and the mouths won't line up, but
it's not that bad.
The actors are actually pretty on point when they're doing. They have they must have gotten some of the same actors that were actually in the show to do the voices.
You don't have to read it to enjoy it.
You don't have to.
The dubs are okay.
Yeah. Dub, it has a dub.
But the best part of the show are the tiny hats.
Oh my God, dude! I know they're like historically accurate, but some of the costumes are ridiculous.
they really are. Like everyone's wearing these like weird hats.
Yeah, with little feathers on them and stuff like that. It's so distracting.
but you know, like if you were a fan of Game of Thrones, like you'll love this show because it's basically like the Korean feudal version of Game of Thrones. Like it's got the political intrigue, it's got the zombies, it's got all types of like badass sword fighting moments. Like it's a really, really cool show.
Yeah,
check that out.
It's really good.
The second thing on my quarantine list, and this is a show that Jude and I started, and she is absolutely obsessed with it now. It's called Tiger King. Okay. And it's a true crime documentary on Netflix. It's kind of in the vein of Making a Murderer, but it focuses on this subculture of exotic pet collectors. And it is batshit crazy. It's made by the people who made the Fire Festival documentary. And it is freaking phenomenal. Like it's about these people who basically collect and raise tigers and all their internal rivalries and stuff like that. But like there's also like weird stuff like polyamory, murder.
What?
Yeah, like legit murder
documentary.
Yeah,
it's real. It's not like a made up.
No. This is 100% legit.
Oh my God.
And like every episode, we just keep thinking like, oh, this can't get crazier, and every episode it does. And Jude is just like her mouth is just like her jaw's on the floor the entire time we're watching this, because every scene you're just like no, this can't get any more ridiculous, and then it does. And like the main character, his name is Joe Exotic, and he's this gun-toting gay kind of like country music magician who owns an exotic zoo in Oklahoma. Okay. And basically he was arrested for trying to hire a contract killer to take out his top rival, who's an animal rights activist. And so like the show kind of explores like all these different characters in this weird exotic animal subculture, and it is fascinating. It is like one of the most interesting documentaries I think I've ever seen. And it like you can't go wrong with this show.
And this is Netflix?
This is Netflix. Okay. Yeah, it's called Tiger King.
Wow.
Netflix will make movies about anything.
Dude, Netflix like they've got to be the king of original content.
Oh yeah, no, like when I get into mine list Netflix.
Go ahead, hit it up. You're next on.
What, you
got anything else, Matt?
Two, or?
I have the third one, but I forget.
Okay.
I'll chime in if I remember it.
Like, all right, circle back around. So since I'm bringing the estrogen today, these two. Have you guys seen the show, the original Netflix series called You?
Yes, I love that show.
That show is so.
Both seasons were great.
Good. So I'm on season 2 right now. I think episode 3 or 4 of season 2. Yeah. And
the first season was phenomenal. Like if you like Dexter, this is basically Dexter light. But
I've never seen Dexter actually.
Okay,
but
it was a dark show too.
It's just a fascinating look at a psychopath. Like what makes a psychopath?
He's basically a stalker.
He's such a complicated and complex character.
He's a nice stalker.
He's like he's the main character. Joe is just so. It's like he does terrible things. You know, he's a killer, but he doesn't think of himself as a killer. And he, you know, he's got this oddly good heart. Like he wants to help these kids. And then, so like season 2, I'm getting into, they're starting to show a little bit more of his backstory, like of what made him the way he is. But it's just so bizarre. Like you were talking about watching a show that made your heart beat. Like there are times I'm watching this show and like I'll look at my Fitbit and my heart rate's like 110.
Yeah, the reason I liken it to Dexter is because basically the main character is the bad guy.
Okay.
And as he's doing these terrible things, you're so worried that he's going to get caught.
Start rooting for him.
Well, yeah, you're rooting for him. So like it's a weird situation where like you want him to succeed even though you know what he's doing is terrible.
Yeah.
And so like every time like he does stuff that where like basically he almost gets caught.
Yeah.
You're just on the edge of your seat.
Oh yeah. And he's like, oh my God, get out of there. Dude, what are you doing? Oh my God, you forgot to pee. Oh my God.
Yeah. like that scene where he's in that girl's apartment and he's hiding in the shower because she came home early. Yeah. You're just like, oh my God, she almost found him.
And it's just terrible because like I don't want to get too into spoilers, but I just wish Beck hadn't found that box.
Yeah.
It was like he might have been,
or if she just went along with it. Yeah.
Well, so that would have been a really interesting choice, and I kind of thought that might, because I knew there was a season 2, and I've been really good about avoiding reading anything about it or seeing the descriptions. And I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if like she does get on board and then all of season 2 is just them being like
Bonnie and Clyde.
Like, yeah, you know, I mean, just like
it's funny. Season 2 has like a lot more twists, I think, than season 1 did.
Well, yeah, I'm like I said, I'm only on episode 3, and it seems like he's fighting the urge to do all the fucked up shit he's been doing. He just can't help himself. You know what I mean?
Well, that's part of the twist.
Exactly. There you go. See, so I don't know. But I recommend that one. And,
it's great.
And so another one that I plan on watching, I don't know anything about, but it's because, I don't know, it's because I'm a mama's boy or whatever. Most of my friends are female. And so I was talking about You with one of them. And she was like, and I had to pull it up. I think it was called Good Girls.
Oh yeah, Jude loves that show.
It's about bank robbing housewives. Yeah, Good Girls. So she was like, if you
it's like Breaking Bad, but for housewives.
Really need to watch Good Girls. So I was like, okay, I'll check that out. So that's going to be next on my list. I think I'll check out Kingdom also after him.
In Kingdoms, each season's only like 6 episodes.
Yeah, it's real short.
It's very short, but I got to tell you, like every episode feels like a movie. Like it's just the production value is really well done, and it's based on a webcomic called The Kingdom of God, I think. Okay. But I've been trying to find the webcomic. I can't find it anywhere. But that's what they sold it to Netflix on, I guess, was the comic.
It's a good show. And that sounds really interesting. That Dexter.
Oh, I'm telling you,
You is fantastic.
It's so good. Like I had a lot of resistance to it because of who recommended it to me. And I was kind of reading too much into like, you trying to tell me something? But then... and I also get triggered because like I've been cheated on, like, you know, like that, and that's kind of like a thing with him. So and sometimes when you're cheated on, you know how like if you've ever accused anybody, or it's really common, like cheaters will accuse their significant other
that they're doing
of the thing that they're doing because they're projecting. And so like at first, like in the show You, like he's accusing Beck of cheating on him, and so like I'm watching
and
it,
she gets
like,
all indignant.
Yeah. You know, so like, oh, maybe
how dare you not trust me?
Yeah, like maybe he's like projecting, and then you find out later that
she really was cheating.
Well, I wasn't going to spoil it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. I wasn't going to spoil that part, but you find out later the reason he was like that was because he had been cheated on in the past, and he was seeing similar patterns of behavior. So like, cause I've been accused of projecting before, like in a relationship where like I've suspected someone.
So the show's kind of like hitting
a
nerve.
It was kind of triggering me in a way because I was like, no, I wasn't projecting. I've been cheated on before, and I know kind of these signals. And then so I was watching like that one episode, and I'm like, I know this bitch is cheating. I know this bitch. I was just getting like, and he's a bad guy, so you shouldn't really care, but he's the main character, so you kind of care. But I was like, and then like when you find out that she was, I was like, God damn, I knew that bitch was cheating. So it's like, so some of those episodes for me, I just kind of had to, not that I'm like some psychopathic killer, but I could relate to the guy on like being cheated on and how like, cause that's with a guy. It really like, and I don't mean just like, oh, you hear about later, like, you know, like you walk in on your woman cheating on you, like that really f***s with you for a long time.
The beauty of a show like You is like you feel such sympathy for like this terrible character who's like objectively terrible. even though like you see the different aspects of him. So like,
he does a
you
lot
see
of
the
really good stuff too.
You see
like,
the noble stuff, but then you also see the really fucked up stuff.
Yeah.
And like it's hard to reconcile.
but a lot of his
things.
well, not a lot, but at least 2 of the killings he's done that I've seen so far were in self-defense. You know what I mean?
I think,
like the guy, the loan shark guy, or whoever that guy,
but
Jared,
it's self-defense due to the fact that he's doing bad things.
Exactly. No, exactly.
That puts him in these positions.
Puts him in these situations. Yeah, like if he wasn't stalking his Beck and at that place in Greenwich.
Yeah, he's putting himself in these situations.
He wouldn't have had to defend himself.
But there's also a situation where like he'll put someone in like a cell like that he constructed.
Jesus.
And it's basically like long form of torture where he's like torturing these people, and then like you'll eventually end up killing them either on purpose or accidentally, but they end up dying, and then he has to deal with the fallout of that. So like it's basically just this ever escalating series of terrible choices on his part that just shows like how big of a sociopath he is.
Yeah,
but you can't help but want the guy to succeed. It's very strange.
It's so well written.
And that's why I liken it to Dexter, because Dexter was the same thing.
Yeah, the redeeming quality of Dexter is that he was a terrible person, but he was doing it to people who were arguably worse than he was. And that was his main target.
And it's similar in this show, too, where basically the people that end up dying, you're like, well, they're not as bad as Joe, or like they're worse than Joe is. Joe's not as bad as these people.
Yeah.
But then like you step back and you're like, wait a minute, like these are all terrible people.
Yeah. No,
that's weird. It's called You.
Yeah, and it's
based on a book.
Produced, and some of it I think is even written by Greg Berlanti, who does all of my favorite CW shows. So like my guilty pleasure, like my girlfriend Casey won't watch them. She calls them basically like they're comic book soap operas, but like Batwoman, and Supergirl, and Arrow, and Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow.
Shows that used to be good.
Well, I don't know. I'm still, it's my guilty pleasure. I still love and watch them religiously. Like Batwoman, I find like, are you current on Batwoman? Have you watched it?
I've never watched Batwoman.
Oh, it's actually,
I couldn't bring my, after the trailer, I was like, there's no way I'm watching this.
It's so good. So, so spoiler alerts. So in like the second to most recent episode, she kills somebody. She breaks Batman's rule. She like not just kills somebody. She kills somebody, strangles them to death with her bare hands.
What?
Yeah.
That's going to trigger a lot of Batman fans.
Oh, yeah. No, but it's like, and now like the most recent episode is her like dealing with the fact that she's a killer now. And it just, so it's made it really interesting to me. Mm-hmm. But the only reason I bring that up is because I was really surprised to see that Berlanti had something to do with You. So I was like, oh, of course it's good. You know?
There's another great show on Netflix called Travelers. I don't know if you've ever seen that. So like it's a sci-fi show. It's about people who from the future who transfer their consciousness back in time.
It's called Travelers?
It's called Travelers. It's a complete series. So there are 3 seasons to it. There's a definitive ending. And it is one of the best time travel science fiction shows I think I've ever seen, and it's made by the guys who did Stargate.
Oh,
yeah. So
it's called
Travelers.
Oh, I think I've seen the little clip art of it. Yeah,
it's a Canadian TV show, and basically there's like this huge apocalyptic event that basically puts the world into a dark age and stuff like that, and the survivors go through like just pure hell, and they figure out a way to travel or send their consciousness back in time. So they find people who are about to die. So like they erase their consciousness in the past, or like people who are about to die in the past, and they overwrite their consciousness with the consciousness of the people from the future. And then they save those people's lives so they're not interrupting the timeline, because those people were going to be removed from it anyway. And then using those bodies, the travelers go about trying to change the future so like they can save humanity. And it's just
it's kind of like Quantum Leap in that sense.
Not necessarily. Like it's a lot darker.
I mean, as far as like the aspect of it, like their consciousness is going into a person in the past. Yeah, kind of like how Sam did.
Yeah, but it's permanent. It's a permanent thing. Yeah, so like
it's a one-way trip.
Yeah, so like if they were to leave the body would just die. It wouldn't.
Well, if they leave the body and the body dies, what happens to their consciousness? They go back.
Well, the original person is dead the minute they're overwritten by this other person's consciousness. But it's a very complex and fascinating science fiction show, and I just absolutely loved it. It's really good sci-fi.
Talking about time travel, I wanted to mention something that my wife has been binge watching, and I actually bought another streaming service specifically for her so she could watch her show. It was Outlander. She's like, I need to catch up with season 5.
The same thing happened with me and Jude. Like Jude made me buy Stars just so she could watch Outlander.
So Outlander's on Stars?
Yeah.
It's on Stars, but you can watch a lot of it. I think it's 2 or 3 seasons on Netflix.
I used to watch that show because it's produced by Ronald D. Moore, who did Battlestar Galactica, and he was a big DS9 writer. And after season 2, with all the gay rape that was going on, I had to check out. I was just like, I can't
my wife told me,
anymore.
She's like, that never happens again. I was like,
I know, but it kind of ruined it for me.
I feel
I'm just
that was the last episode I watched as well. I watched that episode and I was like, babe, I think you've watched this show by yourself now.
It's funny because all the women have no problem with men raping each other. They're like, show me more.
I tell them because they have there's some seriously hot sex scenes in that show. My wife watches it. It's a really good show, and I like it. But I'm not. There's so many things I got to watch. It's on the bottom of my list.
Yeah, like my girl's been watching or watched this show called Easy, and I couldn't get it. I was trying to watch it. I just couldn't get into it.
I think I've seen the first couple episodes of that.
It's a fantastic show on Stars. There are actually a couple, but Black Sails. Which is
the pirate show, right?
Yeah, it's basically the prequel to Treasure Island, the book. And it shows how Long John Silver became Long John Silver and all the adventures that these pirates had. And it's basically like Game of Thrones on the high seas. It's a complete series now because it finished a couple years ago. So you can binge watch the whole thing. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it.
So the only Star show I've ever liked was Spartacus.
Oh, Spartacus was great.
I couldn't do it, man.
It was so good.
I couldn't do it.
No, that's a binge show. It's gladiators and naked everything. It's naked Xena.
Naked everything.
Naked everything. It's great.
So much nudity.
It's so good.
I couldn't finish. I was like,
it was a fantastic show. The guy who did the first season of Daredevil, that was his show. So it was Stephen S. DeKnight.
Did you hear, speaking of Daredevil, did you hear Kevin Smith was saying that they're bringing
Charlie Cox into
Spider-Man 3.
I heard rumor. I didn't. I don't know.
Also, speaking of Daredevil, Rosario Dawson.
Oh yeah, we were supposed to talk about
Ahsoka.
that.
It's been rumored. I don't know if it's official yet that Rosario Dawson has been cast as Ahsoka. I
tracked it down to the original article that was said, and they said
in the live action
anonymous, not anonymous, but it says sources tied to the filming. Yeah. I'm like, so take it with a grain of salt, but it seems to have gotten some traction, and there hasn't been anybody denying it on Twitter that I know of. Rosario Dawson's on Twitter. She didn't say anything about it, and I haven't heard anything from Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni.
Yeah, so basically the rumor is that in Season 2 of The Mandalorian, Ahsoka Tano shows up, and first time in live action, and she's going to be played by Rosario Dawson.
And this is a longtime fan casting for Ahsoka. If it wasn't the voice actress who actually plays her in the show, the next fan favorite was going to be Rosario Dawson.
Not Rosie O'Donnell?
Rosie O'Donnell?
Okay.
And the funny thing...
Rosario?
Maybe if they have a Hutt kid or something, she could play a Hutt.
The funny thing about this is that people are outraged that she could potentially have this role, not because of anything remotely sane, but because apparently people think that Rosario Dawson is a transphobe. And so there's been a big outcry from the alphabet community about making sure that she doesn't get this role.
So this is for The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mandalorian Season 2.
Yeah. So I kind of put this out on Twitter, but my hot take and my unpopular opinion is that this won't work.
Well,
Ahsoka in live action.
I think you're wrong.
And
Matt, would you say he's stupid?
No,
I just can't see it. She's got this giant friggin' head thing on it, and it's so distracting.
Dawson's.
I just don't see it working.
Any motion to his previous titties.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I can't see it. If you look at all the other Jedis in the Star Wars universe, the ones that have those giant headpieces.
The Twi'leks?
The Twi'leks are different because they just have...
It doesn't have to be a giant headpiece.
It is, though.
Well,
if you look at it in the cartoon...
Here, they could make that.
She's a teenager in that picture. Yeah. When she's older,
I don't know. I saw the voice actress doing some cosplay. It didn't look that terrible to me.
It's not like she would be the first person to ever wear that headpiece. With
exactly, but the only other time that we see it is in episode 3.
Talking like that?
Yeah, that's too much, man.
See that.
It's going to look weird.
I think it looks fine.
I think that.
Didn't they have Shakti in the movies? Didn't she have like a head like that type thing?
Yeah, but she wasn't like jumping around sword fighting and stuff.
Yeah, she was.
Oh man, the more
she wasn't though. The only time we see her is she lights her turns on her lightsaber at the Battle of Geonosis, and then they cut away from her, and you never see her again. And then in episode 3, she dies in an edited cutout scene where she's just sitting there and she's
look at this. Somebody did an artist rendering of her and it looks hot. I think that'll be
that headpiece
that looks pretty good.
Oh man.
I like Rosario Dawson.
Yeah,
I do. I like her as an actress.
She's on this TV show called Briar Patch right now on USA that looks really good. I want to get into it.
The casting is not the problem. It's just the character herself. I can't get around.
Well, it's funny because Dave Filoni always said that if they were going to do a live action Ahsoka, he would insist upon the voice actress being the character.
Has he said that?
I think he's publicly said that, and that's one of the reasons why there's another subsection of people who did not like this casting announcement
because they want to see the voice actor.
They want to see the voice actor doing it.
Which I can't think of any reason why they wouldn't. But
she doesn't have the right
people
face.
Right, and there's a reason she's a voice actor.
What is wrong with your face?
As someone who's just started getting into voice acting, I like to give a little plug to the voice actor studio. Melissa Motes is the best. I got a face for radio, man. Like, just because you can do a voice doesn't mean you can do the live action, visual representation of it. So.
I guess. But I don't know. I'm going to have a hard time. What do you guys think? Obviously, you guys disagree with me, but are you looking forward to seeing her?
Oh, yeah.
In live action?
I'm looking forward. Ever since seeing her in Alexander, anything I can see Rosario Dawson in.
Clerks 2.
Yeah.
Clerks 2. Amazing. I love that movie.
No, she's a good actress. She used to date former presidential candidate and New Jersey mayor or governor Cory Booker. So like the fact that she's getting raked across the coals for quote unquote being a transphobe is kind of ironic to me because like these are her people who are like trying to lynch her basically.
It's a blip on the radar.
Yeah,
it'll all go away in a week.
But she's a fantastic actress. I loved her in all the Marvel Netflix stuff.
Yeah, she was great in Daredevil.
Briar Patch looks really good. She was good in Zombieland 2. Her little cameo there. And I haven't
seen it yet.
I think she'd do.
She's in it.
Yeah,
spoiler.
It's not a secret. She was in the trailers. But I think
she has the wrong face.
I think that Mandalorian season 2 is going to be richer if she's in it. Although Pedro Pascal did put out a tweet about no transphobes, so like I don't know if there's like a.
Where did this transphobe thing come from? Why do people think
she got in some legal trouble with somebody like years ago, and they're like drudging it up and trying to shove it in her face? I don't know. I didn't look into it because I don't really care. But what do you think, Matt Vader? You look bored over there. Are you into this?
I am into it. Yes, okay. I think.
Do you want to see her? You want to see her lightsaber fight Gus from?
So I think they're going to have to be careful with her.
Yeah,
because it's the Mandalorian show. We don't want it to become the Ahsoka Tano show. So whatever role she has, it's going to have to be very limited. And maybe they're doing like a backdoor test to see if they could pull a Ahsoka show in the future with it.
Maybe.
But I don't think she's going to have a huge role. I think maybe it'll
tie her into the Obi-Wan show. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities.
Yeah. Or maybe she'll be the one who takes Baby Yoda off his hands finally.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
You think they're on for the long run?
I think Baby Yoda's on it for the long run.
Yeah, like he's so popular, they wouldn't get rid of him.
But I think they need to be careful with it.
Yoda. Yeah, for sure. Any of those legacy characters. The same thing with Obi-Wan. Whenever that show gets off,
that's the one I'm really looking forward. Like, I hope the coronavirus doesn't kill us all just so I can see the Obi-Wan show.
I'd really like to see a solo Disney Plus show.
I actually really like that solo.
I would really not like to see that.
I think the movie is kind of like mediocre, but I feel like I could watch a TV show that had Aaron Eaglehorn. I'm sorry, I forget his name.
The Indian dude.
Alden Ehrenreich.
Alden Ehrenreich as reprising the role as Solo. Him and Chewie and Donald Glover as Lando.
Yeah.
I would watch a show of them fighting the Red Sun organization, Crimson Sun organization. stuff like that. Like I would find that fascinating.
Yeah, with Amelia Clark and
do it
Ray
just
Parks
like The
as Darth-
Mandalorian, where it's
Yeah.
like half-hour episodes. Like I would totally be down for that.
Yeah,
I would
agree.
watch a show as long as it didn't have Lando Calrissian or Han
You know
Solo
what?
in it.
Really? You want those characters?
Those
left.
were legacy characters played by Billy D. Williams and Harrison Ford. I don't want to see a 5'2" midget playing Han Solo. Sorry, I don't. He's not Han Solo.
Okay.
He's not Han Solo.
What about Anthony and Gruber?
Friend of the show.
I don't want any
Alex
more
Vocal
Han.
nemesis.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't want anybody else to play Luke.
I
I
feel
don't
that-
want to see anybody else play these other characters.
I feel that way about Yoda. I do not want them to touch Yoda. I don't care about this stupid High Republic era, 400 years before the prequels, where Yoda's supposed to be in his prime. Don't.
Maybe if they did it animated or something, it'd be different. But I have no interest in these
Well, with the
solo characters
the face
that they've
swapping
done.
and de-aging technology they have nowadays, I really don't understand why they like. I would love to see them do that. Like with,
But,
Really?
I mean,
I actually would. They
Oh,
did.
wow.
They've done such a good job with like.
it'd be really expensive. But
I want them
just if you cast Anthony Ingruber, like he looks just like Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you'd save so much money on CGI.
I think I
Do
would
little
just
subtle touch-ups,
rather.
maybe.
I think I would just rather see the legacy characters be left alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you want new.
I want new
characters.
characters, new
Makes
stories.
sense. That's a valid.
That's what I
No,
liked
I-
about The Mandalorian. Is like they're touching all the bases with that
Yeah.
one.
Well,
Mandalorian's
even if
so
they,
good.
they just did a Crimson Sun show with like that followed Kira, because
Yeah.
Emilia Clarke isn't
It's a
doing
new
anything
character.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
okay.
now. So like I'd
You
be
have
cool with that.
Ray Parks as Darth Maul come back and do a couple cameos here and there. That'd
Maybe.
be awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Speaking of sci-fi that we've come to hate,
Yeah. All right,
Now-
ladies and gentlemen, we're going to dump a truckload of salt on Star Trek.
strap
Picard.
in for the long haul.
Oh,
Yeah,
God. So
we're going
red
to talk
tape
about
mark.
this, and I think across the board, nobody's really happy with it. I'm so unhappy with it that I didn't even finish it.
Okay. Before
yeah.
before we get started on Star Trek Picard, I have a surprise for you guys.
We have another surprise?
You
Another-
bring up
Oh,
the card,
Lord.
I'm already
This guy just
clutching
gives
my,
me a
my
gi-
chest here. Just like,
Danny, I'm sorry I didn't plan ahead for you.
it's okay,
but,
man.
So we've been talking about Star Trek Picard for a long time, and
Oh my
Oh,
god!
wow.
I got you
In the
guys
world.
What does it say?
T-shirts to celebrate our
Each
hatred.
Each have
Deserve better. Oh, my God. We were talking about that last time I was here.
with an eyeball.
With an eyeball.
Oh, my God.
So
Where did you get that?
I made them.
You made
I made them.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
good.
genius.
So like for the longest time, we've been talking about how we need T-shirts that said "Each have deserved
That's
better."
good.
Oh,
That's getting
that's
worn
genius.
too.
Dude,
I know
if
people
we,
who buy
uh,
that shirt, myself included. So you can
We
get
need to
those
wear.
I designed and got these shirts way before they killed off Hugh, and like as we said in the previous episode, Matt was like, "My Each have deserved better shirt keeps
Is
getting
growing.
bigger.
On-
So many characters deserve better than the
Everybody,
show."
no, everybody in that show deserves better. Like once we start talking.
No, keep
about
going. Go ahead. I haven't watched it, so I'm gonna stay pretty quiet. But I
It.
know
You didn't watch the last episode?
I don't. I stopped
Well, no,
caring.
it-
like I watched the episode with 7 of 9, and I was like, this ain't it, man.
Which one?
Well,
She's been in.
She's in it.
Oh, the first one where she
okay.
goes to the casino planet and
okay.
murders a bunch of people. I was like, yeah, this ain't my show.
It's so if all of the people on what's the name of that AI planet? It's like
I don't even care. Flower Planet.
Yeah.
The orchids, the orchid planet.
So yeah, so
Space
all
Orchid
all
planet.
of those androids are supposed to be made from data.
Mm.
Okay, so
In what way? Like from their positronic.
from that
that
positronic
weird
neuron or
positronic
something.
neuron particle
Yeah.
that existed somewhere.
but all of them are basically Data's children in a way.
Okay.
And so by the time you get to the end of this most recent episode, I felt like, I think we had an exchange on Twitter about this. I felt like they just shit all over Data's legacy because they actually end up being evil.
Mhm.
They really are the bad guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, so are you telling me
So the
that if
Romulans
Data-
were vindicated?
Hold on before we get into this. Okay.
It just seemed to me like Data, they were saying in a
Yeah.
way that if Data was alive, Data
He
would
would
have
be-
ended up being a bad guy too. and
Okay,
that bothers me.
let's put the brakes on this for just a second.
Sure.
Okay, so basically we're on episode 9 of Picard. There's one more episode to go. Penultimate episode. And there's a lot of stuff that's been happening in this show that doesn't make any sense. And this episode was kind of like the culmination of what the fuckness
Yeah.
when it comes to this series.
I love
Yeah.
there's so much swearing this week.
Yeah.
It is
Hey, if they
terrible.
could swear on Picard.
So me and Matt had like some conversations about this where I would point out stuff and he'd be like, holy shit, you're right. I never thought about that. So Matt, why don't you give us your impression of this latest episode of Picard?
That was just terrible. It's just I don't even.
You're the big Star Trek fan.
Articulate a little bit more.
It was just bad. I mean, there's nothing Star Trek about it, really. It's just everything they do breaks things. You know?
There's a lot of visually. There was a lot. It reminded me a lot of the original series. Because like the terrain, the feel, the utopian, the way the people were dressed, to me, like
there's nothing Star Trek about the story.
No, totally, 100%. You know, it feels like they're...
Which seems to be the thing, a going theme I hear a lot of people say is like, visually, it looks great. Yeah. Like, oh, I love the visuals.
I mean, everything looks great visually. Yeah. The Last Jedi looked great visually. Yeah. It doesn't make it a good movie.
Right, no.
I mean, they lost me. I mean, I just kind of quit paying attention after the giant flowers came up from the planet's surface and swallowed the ships and crashed them onto the planet.
Borg cube.
Yeah,
it's just didn't do shit. It shows up and you're thinking like, oh my god, that's because when it comes out of that whatever the wormhole, the conduit,
the transwarp conduit,
it looks so badass, and you think yes, the 7-0 with the Borg cube, she's gonna wreck shop, and then a couple flowers
come up and rested gently down,
one shot off.
See, like there was like about that whole scene, you know. The flower come up and swallows the Eddie Van Halen guitar ship, right?
So there's a global defense system around the secret planet that's in a 8-star system thing that can only be gotten to through subwarp or transwarp wormholes, and they send this global defense system, which are basically space flowers after these ships.
Giant orchids.
Yeah. And they come up and they swallow the ships that are fighting with each other, and they crash land them on the planet.
Within walking distance,
they crashed the Borg. They crashed the Borg ship. Yeah. The other ones they brought down kind of gingerly, and there's nothing wrong.
I don't know about that because the ship that had Picard and them on it crashed.
Did it crash?
There's a literal trench of where you can see the ship crash on the planet. So it crashed, but not as it didn't get destroyed.
All within walking distance of this settlement.
Yeah, so you got this giant 5-mile wide Borg cube. Well, I don't know how big they are, but. You know, plus the other ship, and all within like 5 clicks of the compound where all the hippie droids are at, right? And I'm sorry, they lost me with the Borg cube, even because if it had crash landed on the planet within 100 miles of that place, they would have all been eviscerated.
Enough to be like embedded in the ground, like it was.
Yeah. It's just
because like I think they're saying that the flowers slowed its descent, so it didn't actually crash, but still it was like. Even if it had hit a little bit, there would have been like some cratering.
We have problems with the physics.
It's just everything's just super convenient.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here's Legolas shows up and it's like, oh, hey, Picard, and hey, what you doing? And then Seven pops out. And it's like, oh, hey, what you doing? Blah, blah. It's like it was.
Let me ask you guys this question. So in the Space Vegas episode, basically Maddox goes to this crime boss. Because he's being chased by the Zhat Vash, and he thinks that they're out to kill him. And he basically got money for some reason. Some people need money now. He got money from this crime boss in order to create his secret lab, where he was able to make Soji and her sister. But when we go to Flower Planet. They have like this whole big utopian lab there. Mm-hmm. So was that the lab he used the money for to create Soji, or was that already there and he left that lab to create a new lab?
I don't know. It seemed to me because how Data's brother, AI Soong, did you notice that? His Artemis Ingenious Soong, so his initials are AI Soong.
Oh god!
Did you notice that?
No, I did not notice that.
So I thought that was a funny touch. And he's trying to transfer his consciousness. This guy named AI Soong is trying to transfer his consciousness into an android body, and that's what he's getting the doctor that murdered Maddox to help him do. And now, oh my god, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, like there's just so many questions that I have about the show that aren't easily answered. And it frustrates me.
A lot of dots they expect us to connect. So to answer you, I think that he probably did get the money for that because AI Soong was talking about how Maddox was there helping him work on this stuff. You know.
Yeah,
so
but I mean,
unless maybe he thought AI Soong's going a little crazy.
If that lab was so freaking secret and hard to get to, why did he have to leave it if he was worried the Zhat Vash were going to kill him?
Man.
Wouldn't leaving that place put him in more danger?
Yeah.
And why go to the person who's a known crime boss who gave you the money that she's going to want to collect on for help? Why not go to Picard, who he programmed into the two androids to go to when they were in trouble?
Because then we wouldn't have a story.
Show. Yeah, then we wouldn't have a show.
It's like that, that's great fodder for like how it should have ended videos or something, So I don't know. My big problems are I wanted better for Picard.
Yeah.
He deserved better because he ends up like this whole story of him now is he's ended up alone, betrayed by the Federation.
He's a doddering fool.
Gave his life work to, and he's just kind of sad.
Yeah,
and, it's just so sad.
That scene where he tries to convince all the androids that he can help them by going to Starfleet and making their case. It's like you couldn't even do that for the Romulans.
And Soon says that.
Yeah, and they point out the fact that he's just been a failure for like years.
Yeah,
and it's so depressing.
It is. I really hate what they've done. Like, I can't believe Patrick Stewart was like, yeah, this is great. This is what I want to do with
That's the thing that gets me is everybody's like, I can't believe the writers of this show just shit on Picard. I'm like, freaking Patrick Stewart was one of the writers.
Yeah, he was like all on board for this.
And that breaks my heart because I'm thinking like Patrick Stewart should be the one who he covets this character.
He did say he didn't want to do any more Picard shows unless they took his character in some new and
no, this was
crazy direction, right?
And you know what the direction is going to be. Picard's going to get his brain downloaded into that golem that Dr. Soon was going to use for himself, and he's going to be replaced by a younger, cheaper actor.
Yep.
So they can continue doing the show called Picard with like a new Picard.
God, I hope not. Yeah. I was kind of hoping. I'm kind of leaning toward that they somehow, because they're shooting seasons 2 and 3 back to back at the same time.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, that's what I read. Well, I mean, I don't know about the coronavirus stuff now, but they're supposed to start this summer and they're shooting seasons 2 and 3 together, like back to back. And I think that somehow in this last episode, maybe they're going to cure him. Like he's like that's kind of what I was thinking might happen before the reveal that they're actually evil. So because like, how are they going to do seasons 2 and 3?
Can we talk about the big twist of episode 9, which was that everything we've been told up to this point has been correct?
Yeah.
That the AIs are evil because they're going to precipitate the wiping out of all organic life.
All organic life.
And that the Zhat Vash are completely justified in wanting to kill them all.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because that warning.
Isn't that the Borg though?
No. Well, see, the warning, the Borg wants to assimilate.
Yeah.
So they compared it to when Zefram Cochrane broke the warp barrier and got the Vulcans' attention. So this beacon or warning on that planet with the 8 suns or whatever,
the grief planet,
that's
literally what it's
that
called.
was actually left there to leave a message for the AI, for the androids. Yeah. So once you get to a certain level, no matter what, for thousands of years, all cultures, when AI gets to a certain level, they get scared and they try to kill you. So once it gets to that point, use this beacon, call us, we'll come, we'll wipe out all organic life, and then you can join our federation of AIs. And that's what the actual beacon. Yeah,
the look on your face.
Look on Alex's face.
So basically, once
he's like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So that means and all these people were made from data, or all these androids were made from data. So it's just like, I don't know. I really. How
does this tie into?
And the weird thing is, like, they are biosynth androids, so they're part
biological.
Biological, and so like, wouldn't they be wiped out too? But like, the whole premise is that organics become jealous of these robotics. They
never grow old
because they never grow old, and they keep evolving, and it's just like wait, what?
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense.
So I don't know. Like, I can't help but watch it. Because but it's so heartbreaking. Like, so like it sucks. I was talking to you guys before we started recording about how my roommate moved away to be with his family because of coronavirus. But like, he and I, we were so excited. We had people over to watch the episode with us. I grilled up a bunch of steaks and like, we just had a really good time. We watched the episode, and at the end of it, it was like we'd both been like punched in the gut. We were just like, God, this is so sad. This is so depressing. I mean,
the entire
Romulans who we thought were the bad guys are actually the good guys the whole time. And
the entire series,
I think an idiot.
I think Red Letter Media said it best, where it's like the entire series was written by someone who only watched the Next Generation movies and didn't quite understand them, because like you have in the previous episode 8. So Seven of Nine, or Seven, whatever she's called now, she becomes the Borg queen. She hooks into the Borg cube.
Okay.
And her plan is to awaken all the Borg in order to fight off the Romulans who are trying to basically kill them all. And so she wakes up all the Borg, and the Romulans open the doors and just have the Borg sucked into the vacuum of space and kill them all. And so hundreds of thousands of Borg just get sucked into space. Yeah, it was terrible. But then you're sitting there, it's but wait, Borg can exist in the vacuum. They don't need oxygen, or they're immune to the temperature change. So and plus,
don't they all have their own little force fields too around their bodies? That's established in every.
But they don't need air.
Yeah, and the fact that Seven basically was jacked into the cube and could control every aspect of it. Number one, why did she allow the door to be open to suck all the people out into space? And number two, why didn't she just teleport them back into their little pods after it happened? Because the Borg can do that, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot of things where it's did the writers of the show ever bother to do any research into how Borg operate at all?
No, I don't think they did. It's pretty apparent.
Yeah, and the real question is, so basically you have the Borg artifact, which is the name of the ship that is no longer under Borg control, and you have the Romulans who are doing the Borg Reclamation Project, which I guess is a treaty with the Federation, where they've got this kind of UN of scientists who are coming to not only try to save all the people on this Borg ship who were assimilated and bring them back.
But weren't they butchering them?
No. They were
healing them. They were taking away all the Borg technology to try to.
I don't know if that's actually been determined what they're doing to what end.
Well, they've mentioned that there was a treaty between the Romulans and the Federation to kind of share the research of this Borg cube, and Hugh was there to lead the reclamation project. But the real question is, number one, why did Maddox send Soji there? And number two, why are the Romulans doing this? Was this all just a big setup to lure Maddox out and try to find out where this planet is? It's never really clear. And if it is that, it's the most convoluted plot ever conceived.
I want to know if the Zot Vash chick got assimilated on purpose so she could break the Borg cube with her infinite grief. Sadness.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on.
Wait, what?
So the Borg cube, she got assimilated. That the chick with the crazy hair, right?
Okay. The one who was destroy.
Destroyer. So she got sucked into the cube, got assimilated. When she got plugged in,
and she was a secret member of the Zot Vash.
Yeah, when she got plugged in, her memories from the ceremony broke the cube from her utter sadness.
Her depression.
Her depression. So the cube got severed from the collective because they were too sad.
Because they're there's too much sadness from the cube. We need to cut it off.
It's the sad cube.
It wasn't just that. Did you see the episode?
Yes.
Well, that's legit what happened, Alex.
She had a psychotic break because everybody else killed themselves or ripped their faces off or smashed their heads in with rock, and she had. She didn't have a psychotic break, though, because she eventually recovered and went on to be a researcher on the Romulan ship that got assimilated. Okay.
So she was normal when she was getting assimilated. But because of her visions of what would happen through the Grief Planet ceremony, being assimilated triggered something in her that caused her to remember that stuff as she was being assimilated. Yeah. And so her sadness, her infinite grief over this stuff affected the Borg cube so badly.
You don't think Annika got taken from her parents and turned into a Borg at 9 years old, had infinite grief? What did
yeah, it's so dumb.
But
that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, but she also saw the end of all life, not just humanity, but
what about Icheb? His parents used him as a biological weapon twice.
Yeah.
You don't think he was sad?
There's a lot that's just, why couldn't they get, what is his name? Steven, the guy did Deep Space Nine.
Ira Steven Behr?
Yeah, that guy. They should have got somebody like him.
He's too busy doing the Orville.
One of the writers or something.
Yeah, he's too busy making, good Star Trek.
It's my real question, there's so many things that needed to be set up for this show that just haven't been answered. For instance, what's the state of the Romulan Empire? Because it's been established that the neutral zone doesn't exist because the two home planets of the Romulan Empire have been destroyed
by a supernova.
And
right?
they have refugees all over the galaxy spread out there. And yet they have a fleet of 212 ships that are coming to destroy the flower planet. They have treaties with the Federation to have like a joint research operation on this thing. They have a standing military. It's like, does the Romulan Empire exist or doesn't it? And if it does exist, why are they letting all their refugees just linger on these like terrible planets? If you have 217 ships at your disposal to go destroy the flower planet, why isn't one of them at that one place where they picked up Elnor to protect it from raiders and stuff? Like, why aren't they giving people their supplies? What are they doing? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's just too convenient. Everything's just made for convenience.
It's not even convenient. It's just confusing.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
It's like they don't know what they're trying to what story they're trying to tell. And the damage they've done to the character of Picard, this is not the Picard I know from even the movies.
It's not, and it's just...
They warned us about that, though, because they said it multiple times during their little press conference stuff.
But
this isn't the Picard you know.
But
sad.
It's like The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker. It's not the same character.
Yeah.
And it's not even a believable change from what the character was.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that Jean-Luc Picard treats people in this show is borderline insulting. He's had, he went to go pick up Elnor because he needed someone who could fight for him. And then every time Elnor fights for him, he lectures him on not fighting. and he also, the daddy issues that he created with Elnor, like 3 times he's left Elnor to die so far. And each time he's just see ya, kid. And like the final time that he's with Elnor in this last episode, he tells him that he's dying. And Elnor's like, I just want to be by your side and help you. And Picard's like, fuck no, you stay here. I don't want anything to do with you. And you're wondering what this character was even doing on the show. And then there's a scene in this episode where Rafi, who has arguably the most connection with Picard in this series, at least,
according to the show,
like she tells him that she loves him, that she cares about him, like not a romantic love, but just like a father figure love. And Picard is so awkward in that moment where he doesn't know what to say. And I would have preferred it if he'd just been like yes, very good, but instead he's just like, yeah, well, I kind of love you too, I guess. I mean, it was very, very awkward and bizarre. And his relationship with Seven, which was never previously established.
Exactly. They never, that makes me so mad.
These two characters, I mean, there's a big gap of time that they could have met. But
cool, but they have this formulaic version. They have this formulaic version of the show where they open up every show with a flashback. I think we even said this last time I was here. It's like, just give us a freaking 2 or 3 minute backstory on how they know each other. You know what I mean? Or
something.
What's in the
some
comic
context.
Fuck.
He's not even joking either.
and also, there's a lot of stuff in the show.
So my TV shows give me homework now?
Yes. It's exactly what it does.
But there's a lot of stuff in the show where it's like, for instance, Raffi's class warfare stuff, where she's confronting Picard about living in his vineyard with his antique furniture. And Red Letter Media's review was like, well, all of his actual antique furniture burned down in the fire from the Generations, the movie Generations. So all that antique furniture is replicated. So if Raffi wanted fancy antique furniture, she could have just replicated it. This whole idea that there's now money in the Star Trek universe
breaks a lot of
when it's been very clearly established that they've moved beyond money doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And it really is like nobody who wrote this show ever bothered to watch an episode of Star Trek in their life.
It's what the pilot episode for the Star Trek Voyager, there was a scene where Harry Kim is sitting in a bar, and of course he's like the naive new recruit ensign guy, and some Ferengi guy is trying to...
It was Quark's bar.
Yeah, he was trying to get him for some jewels or something like that, and they're fighting over how much money he's got and how much he's going to give him, and I'm like, I don't know if is there a rations that the Federation gives out to their cadets or something? I don't know how that all works. So the money aspect of these shows, if you're in the Federation, you don't have to worry about that. But I'm wondering if it's outside the Federation.
Well, the whole thing about matter replication. So when you have unlimited resources, you don't need money because they're just readily available. You go and you have the replicator create whatever it is you want, and you don't need to pay for it. So the idea was that once replication technology became widespread, you could eliminate money, and so people pursued stuff that they were passionate about,
Yeah.
and their reward was status or renown or the feeling of accomplishment. And that's how humanity progressed into this idealistic future that Star Trek kind of
And if you did come across some kind of a culture that still had some kind of monetary value,
Like
they
the
would just trade, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've got some dilithium crystal we can trade for you
here's a
for some raw
replicator.
a replicator.
Here's translucent aluminum or something like that.
Right.
Like they would trade technology and ideas and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And the Ferengi were kind of because they were so based around such a pure capitalist mentality. They had that gold pressed latinum, which was stuff that could not be replicated. Like they didn't allow it to be.
Yeah, there's
replicated.
limits to replicators.
Yeah.
Like they can't replicate weapons and certain materials.
Anything with complex parts.
Yeah.
So
So you can't replicate a $2 trillion stimulus package.
It's too soon, bro. Too soon.
but I mean, there were so many problems with this latest episode of Picard that my brain almost exploded watching it, and I felt genuine rage by the time it was over.
Yeah.
Like genuine like I hated everyone who worked on the show because they're just ruining everything I loved about the character of Picard and the Next Generation.
That's why I have hope for season 2 and 3 because they've hired Mark Bernard.
You should learn not to hope.
It's the only thing that keeps me going.
As long as Alex Kurtzman is the one running this ship, I don't think that Star Trek in its current iteration will ever right the ship.
Well, I don't know, but Mark Bernard is a huge fan. His first gig in Hollywood was working for Deep Space Nine. He loves Star Trek. Listen to him talk about get this gig, which he got through Instagram, which I think is great. Somebody messaged him on Instagram. I was like, hey, if you're not still working, would you like to come work on Picard? And he was just like, that's like my dream job.
Yeah.
And so and he's one of those guys who huge Next Generation fan. To him, that's like his Star Trek. He's watched all the episodes tons of times. He's like one of those, like he rival everybody here at this table with his trivia knowledge of TNG. I have hope that he's going to help fix a lot of the stuff because he's had a lot of the same kind of grievances because he's the co-host on Fat Man Beyond with Kevin Smith.
Oh, nice.
And so he's already aired a lot of his grievances.
Is that the guy with white hair?
No, he's a black fella. He's kind of like,
Oh, okay. I'll have to watch it. Okay.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Mark Bernard. I love the guy. And he, so he gives me hope because he's supposed to.
So he's voiced his grievances with the show as well.
Yeah,
publicly.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So at least we know he's kind of on the same page.
Yeah, but he's going to be one of the writers, so it's not like he's going to be. We'll see how much influence he can have, but because he made jokes about even bringing back Wesley.
As long as Akiva Goldsman and Alex Kurtzman are in charge.
No, Kurtzman, I don't understand how that guy is still involved with Star Trek.
So Vader, you and I were kind of talking about stuff regarding the show as well. Like, what were some of your problems with this episode other than the space flowers?
I don't know, man. There was just all the different versions of the androids. It's like, to me, in my head, they should all look somewhat similar. The mind meld was done.
Oh yeah, the robot mind meld.
The mind meld.
So one of the androids mind melds with Dr. Girardi. And it's just like, wait a minute, that's not how mind melding works.
I know, that really, really pissed me off. That really pissed me off because I'm like, you can study, like the excuse they gave was like she was such a great student of Vulcan culture and history, but like now this android can do mind melds like that. To me, that was another thing.
I don't think you know who we're talking about, right? So there's an android that's on the show. She's the model prior to Sochi and Dodge.
Yeah, her name
looks just like her, but datafied.
Be like their mom. She's all gold,
yellow skin, gold
Data's
skin,
eyes.
Okay. Yellow eyes.
She goes up to the doctor chick,
the blonde chick, right?
Girardi,
and
Dr.
full on mind melds her. Your mind to my mind. Blah blah blah.
And we're like, and this is how she gets
whoa.
exposed to the Grief Planet's message.
Yes.
And because she's an android, she can understand the full message. And it's basically everything we've been told is right. You need to destroy all organics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very strange.
And she does something heinously evil to set things in motion. So they capture. We're going into spoilers, right?
We've been spoiling the whole thing. Yeah.
So she captures that little hamster-looking Romulan dude that seduced Sochi. I forget his name.
Narek.
So they capture him, right? And this what's her name? The gold Soji.
Gold Soji.
Yeah, sure. We'll just call her that.
Sutra.
Sutra. So Sutra is, like lets him go and she kills one of her fellow android people to
frame him.
To frame him so they can say, see, humans are bad.
And she kills the android by stabbing her in the eye with a Blue Jay brooch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute.
Androids are like super durable and strong and can withstand pretty much anything.
Yeah. It's like, couldn't they just repair the android that got stabbed? like, why is she dead?
Yeah. So it's just yeah,
I think
exactly.
we just broke Alex.
Yeah. It's just.
I don't want to watch this show. I stopped wanting to, and I'm like,
and the moment that Brent Spiner showed up in this episode, where he just shows up and he's like, I know what you're thinking, and I'm like, no, you don't.
Hey, I'm Brent Spiner,
and he introduces himself. He doesn't totally buries it like mad scientist, and then by the end of it, he ends up like, oh yeah, he is a bad guy. But because he introduces himself like. But
like the reason Dr. Soon created Data and Lore and all these androids was because he couldn't have children.
Yeah,
and so he looked at these at the androids as his children.
Oh yeah.
But then so Brent Spiner shows up and he's like, I'm Dr. Song's son. AI Song, and
Artemis Ingenious Song, something like that.
And he's like, my father had me the same time he was creating Data. And that's a way
that's not a thing.
And that's a way to explain like why he's like he would be Data's same age at this point, only older. And it's not clear whether or not he's like actually Song's son or if he's like another android and like a bio
he's got
synthetic,
like a Terminator.
He's trying to transfer his consciousness into that other droid. So I feel like because
how many plot lines does this show have?
He might think he's human, but like
kind of like the mom.
Yeah, but like if he was one of the first biosynthetic hybrids, because like they have to eat, they have to sleep, and do all this stuff, they might age.
I just watched that episode recently with Data's mom. Remember that where Sung made a wife and she was the first bio android. Do you remember that episode?
No,
the older lady. It's like they find out because she falls down and she like breaks an arm or something like that. But then like it knocks her out, and then Data gets the message from his dad saying she doesn't know she's an android. Please don't tell her. Let her live out her life. Also,
we got another iconic F-bomb in episode 9.
Yeah,
where the admiral, the sheer fucking hubris admiral,
F-bomb.
Yeah, Admiral F-bomb. She does it again. Strikes again.
Yeah. So like they make it a big point that she told Picard to shut the fuck up, and it was almost like something where it's like, yeah, the audience has been waiting for like 30 years to have someone tell Picard to shut the fuck up, and we're finally going to do it. And so like she does it, and you're just like, why is she telling Picard to like he's asking for the Federation's help to keep a species from being wiped out?
I think I'm going to make her my favorite.
Wait, who said that?
Admiral sheer fucking hubris.
We've been waiting to see somebody say that to Picard.
Nobody said
has.
that, but it felt like the writers thought that. Because they made such a big deal out of building up to her saying "shut the fuck up," and you're just like, why is everyone like shitting on Picard? They're being so disrespectful to this guy, and she's got like her plastic surgery face, the actress, and like she looks perpetually surprised, like her eyes are always like super wide, and she's just like, "Shut the fuck up." And me and Matt joked that like she looks like Nancy Pelosi plastic surgery, so we call her Space Pelosi, telling Picard to shut the fuck up.
I like Admiral F-bomb.
Yeah, Admiral F-bomb.
That's a good one.
All right, we're freaking sitting on 2 hours now for this podcast. So final thoughts on Picard. That's pretty negative, right, on your end? Just
super negative. Can't wait for it to be over.
I mean, I can't help but watch it, and it's just. Yeah, it's depressing. I wouldn't even like. It's just sad and depressing. It makes me sad.
I'm looking forward to being depressed when this is over, and then to getting more depressed when Discovery season 3 starts.
I was going to wonder, like, is this somehow going to try and set up Discovery?
I very much think they're tying into each other.
So, like, Discovery is going to have to fight this android militant.
Well, they
army.
already have control. So, like, my theory is that the control is what started the AI Federation that's sending the beacon. That's kind of because they've been sent so far into the future now that time travel's involved, and it's supposed to be the most advanced form of AI, and it can basically possess humans with the nanotechnology.
Yeah. And the events of Picard could be what's setting the stage for the fall of the Federation, because when Discovery starts in season 3, they're so far into the future that the Federation doesn't exist anymore.
Well, no, it has 13 planets left in it. Is what
or the downfall of the Federation.
Yeah, so by and it's up to Michael Burnham to rebuild.
And it's all coming from the same production studio. What's it called?
Secret Hideout.
No, but Bad Robot. Yeah, Bad Robot's still involved. So I think they're all going to be linked. Yeah, and I'm just not. I'm not thrilled with it.
How long is this age of Star Trek going to take? Just give me a Pike. Captain Pike.
That's coming.
Is it coming? That's official?
That is official. Yeah, so that'll be good. Mark Bernard and I spilled the beans on that on the Fat Man Beyond podcast. So.
Just make sure that we get some good writers in that one, because I really like Anson Mount.
No, he was the best part of season 2.
Absolutely.
And that scene where he sees himself in the future from the cage and he still moves forward and he still he knows it doesn't matter. Shit's going to end bad for me, but it doesn't matter. You know? Like those are the kind of characters I like in Star Trek. That's why it's so aggravating to me that they've turned Picard into this pathetic old sad man who ended up alone and it just fucking disgraced, sucks, man. Yeah, disgraced, alone. Nobody cares about him. They think he's crazy. It's like maybe that's not how his story should have ended, man.
Maybe in season 3, Beverly Crusher will come along and they'll go live happily ever after.
I hope so. I've been watching a lot of TNG, and I watched that episode where they were linked to where they were kidnapped and they were linked together with the thing in their neck, and it came, they almost will they, won't they? And then by the end of it, Picard's like, well, now that we know these feelings, why don't we pursue them? And then she shuts him down, walks out the door, does the sign, the episode's over, and then they never pull on that thread again.
Nope.
It's like, God damn, man! I really wanted them to end up together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would have been nice.
Yeah.
To actually give the fans what they want.
I know, right?
Can't do that.
No.
Fuck the fans.
Can't do that.
Well, then they get a bunch of people like us bitching about it, and people will tune in. And it's like no bad, no publicity is bad publicity, or whatever.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah. So.
All right, Kadish, that's a super negative on your end for Picard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a completionist, so I'm gonna keep watching this and Discovery, but I'm very disappointed with the writers of the show, in particular Michael Chabon. I expected more from him.
Well, he's leaving, isn't he?
Well, he's already left. But still, I was hoping that because he's such a good novelist, that this would translate to a good TV show, and it just hasn't. It's been insulting. And I think anyone who actually likes this show isn't a true Star Trek fan. I'm just going to put that out there.
Wow.
No, I would
lay the gauntlet down.
Well, I mean, I have to agree with him. Like this is
like if you're making excuses as to why this show is good, you don't know what good Star Trek is.
Yeah, it's not Star Trek at all. It's formulaic. And you're not catering to this new negative.
You're not a real fan of the series that came before it. You're just someone who consumes and just wants more stuff to consume, and you don't bother to turn your brain on at all. And it's just like any self-respecting Star Trek fan would be insulted by this series.
I'm really curious to see, because assuming that the convention doesn't get canceled because of this stupid coronavirus thing. I'm
sure it will.
If we get to...
it's far enough out.
It's far enough out.
Yeah, it's in like June or July.
August.
August?
Always
yeah.
August,
We'll be back together by then. I'm curious to see how the fandom reacts to the Picard series. Because, I mean, when I was there last year and they did the whole panel with all, the upcoming show, Picard, everybody's looking forward to Picard, the place was packed. I mean, everybody wanted to see Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes, and everybody was super excited to see Jerry Ryan back on stage with all of them. So it's like... I don't know. It's going to be weird. We are all going to wear that shirt.
This is the legacy of Picard.
Each have deserved better.
Right here.
Yeah.
Salt.
Totally.
Salt. Salted. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is your truckload of salt for Star Trek Picard. Thank you all for listening to this episode. You can catch me on Twitter at Salty Nerd or Instagram at Salty Nerd Podcast. And you can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Listen In, and pretty much anywhere else that you can find podcasts. I'm probably there. And YouTube now. We're actually doing a steady stream of YouTube videos, which are small clips from this podcast broken up into short segments so they're easier to listen to. And we'd appreciate you guys to subscribe, like, and do all that cool social media stuff.
Alex, my skin's really dry in this quarantine time period.
Yes.
Where can I find some natural moisturizer and organic hand sanitizer?
If you got, I don't have organic sanitizer.
What is that?
It's oil. Okay, so if your skin is ultra dry because you're washing your hands 18 times a day or more, you can
sanitizer with the alcohol.
Yeah, if your hands are just cracking and blistering, you can go to organicandwonderful.com and check out our Everybody oil. You can use just a little bit of it, and then when you go to purchase it, go to the checkout counter and type in Salty15 to get 15% off your purchase. And we are still shipping. Luckily, my wife is able to get to the office and ship out some
She's an
orders.
essential business.
She is. So if you need anything like that, if you need some healthy detoxifying body products, go there and check out what we have, and it'll help you out. And Matt Vader, where can they find you on Twitter and the socials?
Matt Vader 74 on all of them.
Okay, cool. And Danny,
Dork Knight LV. That's with 2 Ks, so DORKKNIGHTLV, and that's pretty much all of them for my personal.
And you have a charity, right?
Yeah, I was about to thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, so Nerds Never Say Die. I am waiting to get the 501c3 back, and now with all this coronavirus stuff, that's probably going to delay it quite a bit. So I think I'm going to do a GoFundMe here pretty soon to help with all the startup costs involved with that. But Nerds Never Say Die is a mental health awareness and suicide prevention charity that I've started up to help people who need therapy get therapy, because I've been going to therapy once a week now for a couple of years, and it's completely changed my life. And I strongly believe that everybody should go to therapy at least once a month. And a lot of people don't, because either their insurance doesn't cover it or they can't afford it or whatever other excuses people seem to kind of make up. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing is working with a local therapist office, Headway Insight. And what we're going to do is once I get the 501c3 back, we'll start raising money through a podcast where I'll be interviewing several people talking about their mental health struggles or even suicide attempts. Some of them be pretty serious stuff. And once we start raising enough money, we'll have that in a trust that we will use to pay for people to start going to therapy. It's something I'm really passionate about, really believe in as a suicide survivor myself. So
right on, man.
Hopefully people can check that out. Right now, the best place to get information on it is on Facebook, and it's Nerds Never Say Die. So facebook.com/Nerds Never Say Die.
Right on, man. Yeah. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I love it. Yeah, no, as often as I can, I'll make it out.
Matthew Kadish.
This was a much better episode to have him on than Jude, because Jude doesn't watch
Star
Trek Picard. So you can find me on Twitter at Matthew Kadish, Kadish. You can also find me on Amazon, kadishbooks.com. Just type that into your browser. It'll take you right to my Amazon page where you can see all my books. And kadishvideo.com is my YouTube channel. And that's pretty much it.
Right on. Cool. All right, everybody. Have a great day.
Buy my books.
Buy his books.